rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to this week's episode of the World of Gaming, the first proper podcast in 2025. We did an awesome show last week where we tried a first interactive podcast to get an idea what is actually game of the year from the world of gaming community, and that we asked for feedback, and we got some very positive feedback. People were asking if we couldn't do this format even more often than just once for game of the year, because there are other things we could do, and we are thinking about this. We will do that in the weeks where sometimes, there are just no real gaming news to talk about it. And this is a nice change of pace to do these interactive shows. So thank you all for the amazing feedback we have received. And of course, a big welcome to my co-host and good friend Dutch. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing well. And welcome to the Midweek Mix-Up for the first time this year as well.
Right.
So yes, it's awesome to be back. I'm glad to get the show up and running this year, and of course we can discuss the best of 2025 so far. What we're looking forward to. We've got a lot of awesome topics, including CES, and of course the Developer Direct that is coming in a couple of weeks. So it's awesome to be back. We were literally just before the show kicked off discussing something that we're kind of thinking of doing for the Game of the Year show next year already, and how to of change it and make it a little bit even more interactive.
Yes,
so
indeed.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to trying more of these interactive podcasts. Actually, they are fun. I think it's going to be good to see how many we can do with these.
And like you said, we already have ideas because we got some feedback in how to improve and was actually the issue, and we have already ideas to make it more interactive, to make it even less about us, because we realized that us choosing the games that go up against each other definitely influences the outcome, and we have a good idea on how to get rid of that and to even make it more interactive. So that's gonna be an awesome 2025, man. It's not just all the fun games. It's gonna be awesome to spend this gaming year with this awesome community, to include everyone here in the show, because we try to be very welcoming to all our fans, our listeners, our friends that we made over the years here on this podcast, on the Midweek Mix-Up crew, and everywhere where you guys are listening. I also always, because we are doing this show live and we are recording this live, which is awesome, and I love that we have the interactivity with the community, that we have an active chat and everyone. But we also need to really say a big thank you to the awesome community that we built upon Apple Podcast and Spotify and a couple of other podcast services, Pocket Podcasts and so on. Wherever you are listening, we really do appreciate you all. And it's going to be a fun 25, man. I feel it's because we already know tons of amazing games come out, but after CES, man, I feel this is going to be an interesting year, a very interesting year. But before we dive into all of that, Dutch, we need to talk about the games of the week, the games that we play, and we want to know, of course, from the community. Let us know in the chat, let us know in the comments. What have you guys been playing in Dutch? What kept you busy?
Yeah. So, of course, we haven't spoke about what we've been doing over the Christmas period, because we just dived straight into.
We did a little bit last, tiny. We kept it short, but yeah.
So, of course, last over the Christmas period, I finished Warhammer 40k Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Great experience, and the gameplay footage I have on screen now is from the opening kind of hour and a half. And also finished Indiana Jones, which has been awesome. Love that. I'm kind of going through and doing some of the mysteries and things every now and again. I'm kind of just taking my time. I will eventually 100% that at some point, but I'm just literally going in, doing a mystery, coming back out again, which is nice to be able to do. I can kind of just do indie mysteries in like little sections every now and again. Every other day I'll do another mystery, which is good. It makes that game last a little bit longer doing it that way, and I've enjoyed doing it that way. And outside of that, I have started 2 Final Fantasies that I've owned but never played, and I mean played through to their fullest. And that is Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy XII. So I have 12 installed on this bad boy up here, the X. So when I'm sitting upstairs and I want to play Final Fantasy, I'll play through 12. And downstairs on the old 1X, I have Final Fantasy X, 8 and 10 2 HD remasters installed there.
Sweet.
So I'll play that in the living room.
How are they holding up?
I'm really enjoying 10 more than I am 12. It's odd though having that. I mean, they hold up really well, especially the HD remaster. 10 looks absolutely fine. It's not like 7, 8, and 9, which have that weird, because of the way that they were produced back then on certain TV ratios. They have the weird box lettering thing where they have the bars down the side, and that kind of detracts from it, which is unfortunate. But 10, of course, was done on relatively modern hardware and technology, so it's a full screen game. So it's a little bit easier to get into, and it's nice and clean because it's a HD remaster, so it looks good. But I'm getting used to it's like a weird early 2000s kind of voiceover in Final Fantasy X that I don't remember kind of from playing it earlier, where he's kind of narrating himself all the way through the lead character, and I didn't realize he did that, and it's actually quite intriguing because it's like playing. It's like remember the film Stand By Me, where the author of the books is kind of
Yeah.
narrating what's happening all the way through, even though it's happening on screen. It's like that in Final Fantasy X. He keeps talking to himself in like third person. It's like, I didn't realize this would happen, but I'm really enjoying it and such and such. I'm like, okay. But it's really good. So I'm really enjoying Final Fantasy X. And when I can't be bothered to come upstairs and switch everything on and get myself settled here, I'll just sit in the sitting room on the sofa and play some Final Fantasy downstairs. So that's good. Nice being able to relax down there and do that. So, so yeah, that's what's kept me occupied recently. It's as much as I've got loads of new games there, I'm really in a Final Fantasy mood at the minute. So I'm playing some old school ones and going through them. It's been great.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Nostalgia, man,
Yeah.
is a
Hell of a drug.
You said it so much. It's a hell of a drug, and that's awesome.
And I partly blame Jez Corden as well, because he's playing all of the original Final Fantasies through the Pixel Master Collection. On Twitter, he's been playing 1, 2, 3, and I think he's finishing 3 at the minute. But he's finished 1 and 2 recently, and he's going through 3, and then he's going 4, 5, 6. So he's in a real Final Fantasy kick as well at the minute. So
man, sweet. I would love to play through some of them, 7, 9, 10, but I just don't have the time, man. There are so many games I need to play, and especially Path of Exile has been hooked so much. So, but let's see first what the community has been playing, man. I see the Big Bridge is playing Freedom Wars on the PS Vita. It's a unique Monster Hunter like game. Awesome, man. Some handheld gaming there. We'll talk about handhelds later, man. Stormplayer has been playing RoboCop Rogue City, and it's awesome, he says, and I couldn't agree more. RoboCop is one hell of a game. It was a true surprise how good that game is and how good they capture the, feeling of the movies, and it just feels like an 80 action movie, and it feels like you're playing RoboCop. It is really, really good. Pyromat has been playing Indiana Jones. He's still grinding through Vampire Survivors, and he's replayed Yakuza 0. Sweet.
nice.
Sweet. H. Julia plays Indiana Jones. Awesome. Good stuff there. Indiana Jones, Game of the Year. So good. John TJ agrees. He says Indiana Jones is so good. Couldn't agree more. Do we have someone in your chat, man?
No one in. Well, there is people in my chat, but none of them have mentioned games. So
Okay. Got it. All right. I leave the poll in the chat up for a little bit, so you guys can vote on what gameplay we're going to watch today. So TSWS Gaming says he's playing Far Cry 5, and that's actually Ham Solo.
hello, Ham Solo.
Ham Solo, welcome, but man, you try to annoy me. I hate it when people use different names across different platforms, and I
Indeed.
never know who's actually behind the name. But it's awesome you're here. So Ghost Fixer is playing Cyberpunk.
Nice. Another game of the gen.
And but it gets even nicer. He's also playing Path of Exile 2, which is fantastic. Dustin Lambert has finished up Diddy Kong Racing, which is cool. So yeah, man, I have been playing mainly 2 games. I've been playing Space Marine 2. I would assume I'm now halfway through, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I briefly talked about that last week, but it really feels like
Old school Gears fun.
Yes, exactly. Old school Gears fun. It's like stupid action, yes,
Big,
but
huge
simply
men.
fun. bro dudes
Yeah.
characters, and it's gory. It is simple but fun.
Yeah.
And I mean simple. It's not like deep and complex gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
It's just pure fun. It looks fantastic. Actually, runs really good.
Yeah.
Performance mode playing on Series X, and it does run really good. So yeah, having a blast with that. And to be fair, most of my gaming time went to Path of Exile 2. It's just so addictive. I'm now in Act 3 on Cruel, and almost at the end. I'm at a boss I'm struggling with right now. For those who played Act 3, it's the Viper King. He's kicking my ass. But I will power through, and it's Path of Exile is just so good.
Nice.
And I'm usually really not a fan of early access. It's something I've been talking about a lot over the last years. When you listen to the podcast, you probably know that I'm not an advocate of early access, because usually it feels like you're being a paying beta tester. But in this game, it's different. It really is fleshed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you wouldn't know that you're playing an early access game, you wouldn't know this. It's really good. Barely any bugs. Like I think something around 70 hours or so now, and it crashed once.
Nice.
Right? And that's it. And the content is there, it's phenomenal, man. And it is. Don't get me wrong, I really do love Diablo 4, but this is just a little bit more, mature.
Yeah.
And not just in its art style, which is a little bit more darker and more gritty, and it is a deeper RPG. And what really stands out in Path of Exile 2 are the boss fights, because there are boss fights, in Diablo, but they are basically bullet sponges, and if your build is good enough, you just go in. And with Path of Exile 2, you have these orchestrated boss fights. You can have the best build in the world. If you don't know, okay, now he's doing this attack, and for that I need to do this or that, and like there's real gameplay mechanics behind the boss fights, which is simply awesome and makes it so much more rewarding to invest time to optimize your build. It is more challenging than Diablo, yes, but never it's not like a Souls, because I've seen so many people talk about this. It's Souls like Diablo. Yeah, that's not the case. That really isn't the case. It is simply, the game really can be challenging if you don't put enough focus on getting a proper build together. But if you invest that time, you go through the skill tree, think about, okay, if I combine this with that, it's so rewarding. It's super rewarding and just pure fun.
Nice.
Pure fun. So
I've got a couple in my chat as well. I've got Agent X Forces playing indie. We've got
awesome.
Sour Blow says, I'm learning to make games. Does that count? Yes, it does. Significantly different. So yeah, awesome. And Studos just says, I still need to pick up Space Marine 2. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah, definitely worth playing it, man. Definitely worth playing. All right, Dutch. Before we go into the actual topics of the week, I'm gonna close the poll in the chat. So people have voted for Indiana Jones gameplay, followed up really close with Space Marine 2. So we are going to watch Indiana Jones first, and then later, of course, a little bit of Space Marine, which is awesome. And I need to shout out Pyromat, who sends in a channel member chat for being a channel member for 17 months. Thank you so much. He says, let's fudging go, World of Gaming.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say 70 months? Or 17 months?
117.
Nice.
17.
Nice. I was going to say 70 months. Holy shit.
I don't even know if I have channel memberships for 17 months. But anyway, all right, Dutch, let's get into some topics. And I want to start with the hot topic of the day, because earlier today, Xbox announced the Developer Direct, right?
Yes.
It's gonna air on January 23rd. And it's super convenient, Dutch, that this is a Thursday.
Yep.
And it airs 1 hour before we start our podcast that day, which is phenomenal, because that means on January 23rd, we can cover, of course, the Developer Direct right after it ends, because usually those go like 40, 45 minutes, something in that ballpark, right?
Yeah.
And so we are definitely going to cover that day. And I'm really looking forward to it. So it doesn't really come as a surprise, right? They've done the Developer Directs for the last 2 years. They've been very successful. They got very good critique. Everyone loved them, great feedback, and they have been awesome, right? It's this nice little format where they highlight usually 4 or 5 games, 4 from that I have some sort of exclusivity to Xbox. And usually there was a 5th game that is a third-party game that they've shown off with a trailer. And it was always a very well put together show. You got some insights in what to expect from the Xbox games that year. And this year they've announced so far, of course, Doom, The Dark Ages is gonna be in the show, right? We'll get a deep dive there. Then Compulsion Games is going to turn up with South of Midnight, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And Central Interactive comes in with Obscure Claire Expedition 33.
Yes.
Which I would not have put in my guest list as games to be at the Developer Direct. We know that it's coming and it's going to be in Game Pass day 1.
I think it's release date, because they said it was the beginning, like the beginning section of the year.
Doesn't it have already no, it does not. It does not. It says early 2025. Yep. So it doesn't have the. So
I'm hoping for February.
Oh, will you shut up, man? Will you shut up? But this is not a February game, man. So, Dutch, before we dive into that, let me shout out Drawn TJ, who sends in a super generous super chat of $5, and he says, do you think Microsoft makes the next Xbox run Windows and Steam, since the console is Windows just broken down version? So yeah, we've talked about this actually for many times. I do think that the next Xbox is going to run Windows. It's not going to be a Windows desktop thing. It will run a Windows Lite version, or like a launcher interface, that will look very, very similar to a console interface. They are not going to put like all the bad stuff from Windows on Xbox, but I think that the underlying system actually is Windows-based, because that would mean they get rid of developers having to make a different version for the consoles of games. Yeah. They can simply put the already existing PC version on the console, as it is a Windows thing, and I'm very, very sure that this is going to be what they do. Is going to be the thing that they do. And here's why, Dutch. It's this one strength that they have really in the gaming space. They own the operating system so far, because SteamOS, we'll talk about that a little later, but it is their strength. They own Windows, right? Which is the operating system of all PCs.
Yep.
And we've seen that a lot of, well, a lot is too much, but we've seen some games skip Xbox for different reasons, or games come late. Remember Baldur's Gate, right? Where developers just didn't have the time, money, resources, whatever, to optimize a console version. And this is really making life so much easier for developers. It's a Windows-based thing. It would also allow the legal stuff to be much easier when it comes to play anywhere. Yeah, right? If you own there is only one Xbox store, the Windows PC store, which is then also the same store that is on console. It makes this play everywhere easier. So yeah, TJ, I think they are going to have a Windows version to some degree. Yeah. It's not like, again, the regular desktop, but it is going to be Windows. And one last thing on that, maybe, before I give the mic to you. You could really ask, why haven't they done that in the past? It's because Xbox was always the underdog within Microsoft. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of resources to get such an operating system like Windows up for consoles without losing the convenience that come with consoles.
Yeah.
But now Xbox, the gaming department, makes more money than Windows. It's the bigger department. So now the gaming department can go to the Windows department and make the rules. I know it's not that simple. I know I'm exaggerating here, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I do believe that this is going to be the case. Well, what about you, man?
Yeah, I also agree. Before I kind of go into my theories and thoughts on this, I have a message in the chat here from Psychonauts, who works at GameStop over in the US. And he says, I have a feeling Microsoft may announce a handheld at the Xbox Summer Showcase. I have a mystery SKU at work for Xbox. SD card and charger.
Interesting.
And obviously, they don't have SD cards.
Consoles not to
don't.
our knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, they don't have chargers. So there's outside of controller chargers, but they've already got an abundance of them. They wouldn't need to bring out a whole new SKU for a controller charger.
Yeah. I mean, after the statements of Jason Ronald at CES this year, I think the handheld might not be as far out as we all thought it might be. But
yeah,
we will probably talk about that a little later, because otherwise we could just this show is going to be nuts. So
of course, and of course the earlier reports again surfacing that Xbox is potentially going to be out 2026, the next Xbox, which would potentially fall in line with announcing the handheld maybe in the June showcase, and then further maybe announcing the release date later in December at the Game Awards or something like that for next year. You never know. You never know, but that, obviously we said they would probably release the handheld alongside the next Xbox, which would make sense. When it comes to the operating system, we always kind of thought that they would go down the kind of hybrid Windows route in order to get Steam and Epic Game Stores and everything on the handheld to allow you to have a native kind of big picture version of the Xbox UI on a handheld, but also allow you to access Steam games, etc. there as well. And I think that is ultimately going to be the plan, having this hybrid Windows Xbox UI. And I think that's going to be the universal one in order to kind of push forward this everything is an Xbox mantra. Having a singular Xbox app that looks like an Xbox dashboard. So it is a UI essentially, but ultimately kind of just looks like a dashboard, like an Xbox Dash when it's launched. would make sense. Of course, you could operate that on Windows. So you could open up, for instance, the Xbox dashboard on your Windows device, and it would look like you're on an Xbox. You could do that on the handheld device, and it would look like it was on an Xbox. And of course, if they altered the app for TVs and Fire Sticks and things like that, so everything looked exactly the same, so it felt like everything was an Xbox.
Looks and feels the same. Yeah.
That one operating system / application that they're building for the UI would make absolute sense, because of course ultimately what that would allow is everything looks the same, but if your handheld operates on a Windows basis but the Xbox UI is an app, as it were, then you could launch that on the handheld, or launch Steam, or launch whatever you want, and you'd be fine. But on everything else, of course, like the console, which could theoretically do the same thing, or the app on TV, or the app on Fire Stick, ultimately everything would still be that, even if they don't have access to Steam on your TV and your Fire Stick, at least they could still have that universal dashboard that opens up.
True.
So I think it makes complete sense, and I think we've been saying roughly that, and I even mentioned this in WhatsApp the other day when someone asked me the same question. They said, what do you think is going to happen? Are they going to have this thing? And I said, I think they're going to do an Xbox UI type of app that allows you to open Steam and such, and everything on the handheld. And then the day later, Jason Ronald come out and he was talking about it, and he pretty much confirmed just that. Oh, we're going to bring this app, and I was like, okay, that makes absolute sense. So
okay, we get to Jason a little later in the CES segment, right? We were actually on the topic of the developer direct, Dutch.
Yes.
So the 3 games, before we start guessing what is the 4th mystery game, right? So Doom, let's start with Doom Dark Ages.
Yes.
They've shown a little bit at CES as well. Doom's gonna feature full path tracing on PC, especially on the 50 series of the RTX cards now. And yeah, man, we're gonna get a deep dive there. You're surprised? What do you expect?
I'm not really surprised. The funny thing is about Doom is I think the deep dive is going to be more on the technical front. I think they'll go into DLSS 4. I think we'll show off some of the fanciness that comes with the new graphics cards that are coming out for PC, of course. And I'd love to talk about that on this show, but we haven't got enough time to talk about the 50 series cards and things. Because pricing-wise, that is pretty competitive for what they're offering.
We'll get to it.
We will get to it to a point. But in terms of what we're going to see with Doom, I think we'll see a lot of the technical prowess of that game, because it seems like they were pushing that with the announcements of NVIDIA. I also think we'll get, of course, a segment of course, like we have previously with awesome heavy metal music, showing off a lot of different weapons again. And different kind of gameplay elements, and see what else they've changed to it, because we saw glimpses in the previous unveil of flying dragons and a giant mech suit that you wear that's like taking down huge giant demons. So I think they're going to kind of dive more into what happens with the dragon type of stuff, and what that's all about, and the mech suit, and then maybe some more weapons that we haven't seen, and kind of show them off a bit. And
I do agree. I think it's gonna be that will be a very technical part of the developer direct.
Yeah,
showing off the engine, showing off the frames and pixels they can push, showing off ray tracing, showing all that good stuff off. And I assume there will be a lot of talk about how this game is going to feel different from Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
And Doom 2017. Especially Doom Eternal was super fast paced. I feel like this is gonna dial back a little bit the pacing.
Yeah.
And it's still gonna be a fast paced shooter, but not to the same degree like Doom Eternal, what I would assume.
Yeah, just due to the size, because it seems like they've went a little bit more open with it on Dark Ages, so it's gonna feel it'll be as quick, but it'll feel less quick because of the size of the arena that you're fighting in.
Yeah, I agree.
I also think we'll naturally, what happens at a lot of these is you'll get either the release window or release date. So, of course,
Yeah, I think we will get a really. I actually think for all 3 games
Release
that they have
dates.
already announced, we'll get a date.
yeah.
Where
that's what
do
I'm
you
thinking.
think Doom is going to land this year?
May.
Yeah, May, June, maybe.
I can't say
but I
June
think
just because that's literally showcase month.
Yeah, but that's.
It is. It's a good
It
time and
has
it's a bad
been-
time
it-
because it's a good time. It's a good time because of course you can talk about it again and Doom Eternal's out
Yeah,
now.
show it off. Yeah, and it's going to come on next week or the week after, like mid of June, like a week or two.
But at
after
the same time, it's
showcase.
also like when you have that many games getting spoke about at the same time in June month, you kind of want the limelight to be just on that game when you're releasing it. So,
yeah,
which
that's
is
why
why
I'm saying, like a week or two after, the new, you know how fast the news cycle is
Yeah.
these days. A week after the showcases, so this hype is gone, but everyone is still like has this excitement about gaming in
Yeah.
in you. But the news cycle dials down, and then you swoop in a Doom, and it basically takes up the conversation of how awesome this is. But I feel it could also very well be, but somewhere in that ballpark. I don't think Doom is going to be a fall holiday season game,
yeah,
because if you think about it, it's going to be Fable. GTA is going to land somewhere,
Yeah.
somewhen there, right? September, October, November.
I think Fable will be the big June game where they'll go in depth with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and
I agree. This is because Fable. It makes sense to put Fable as the developer direct game after the showcase.
Yeah.
Because we all can assume that they are going to follow that footprint as well.
Yeah.
This year was
Yeah.
super successful with Starfield, was very successful with Call of Duty, and they don't do Call of Duty again because the Call of Duty doesn't need a developer direct every year.
Yep.
That was good last year to let everyone know, okay, Call of Duty is Xbox now, right?
Yeah.
But and Fable is a game that is massive, that is complex,
Yeah.
with all its mechanics, the good and evil system. How is that going to work in the game? Yeah. What kind of role-playing mechanics do you have in there? What's the story, the lore, the world? Yeah. This is a massive game, big scope game, complex game, and that game kind of needs explanation. And I think that's why it makes so much sense to use Fable as the game after the showcase this year.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a fall game, right? And that's why I don't think they put Doom in there. They have Call of Duty in October. Yeah.
I think Fable might be August, September.
No, I think honestly they are waiting until GTA announces when they are going to drop.
I think GTA will be October, November.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But it really depends, and they are going to be a month apart.
Yeah.
If GTA is, let's say, mid-end of November, then they're gonna launch Fable in October. If GTA is October, they're gonna launch Fable more towards the end of November. Because Fable is such a massive game. Fable is their game that really is this single player system seller kind of level game.
For this year.
Yeah, you can for this year, yeah. You can argue, and Starfield was probably the last one, because as good as Hellblade was, that wasn't a system seller. Indiana Jones, yes, but it comes also to PlayStation.
Yeah.
And as much as I loved Indie, my game of the year, without a question, if they would have launched that a month earlier to get a little bit, it came out at a time where it was hard to build the hype around it. And everyone in this hardcore bubble played it, loved it, enjoyed it. But I'm not sure if it is if I would consider it a system seller, it is as good as a system seller. But I don't know if it had the impact on the overall industry to be considered as such.
Yeah.
But and I'm really looking forward to Avowed. Can't wait for it. Super hyped. But Avowed, South of Midnight, those kind of games are not system sellers. Doom comes out on both.
Yeah.
Not a system seller. Fable is really this massive open world action RPG story. Looks phenomenal. Like it's gonna be up there in the Digital Foundry best visuals of the year.
Yeah.
Definitely, right? It has like all the things. It is a known IP, a beloved IP, but at the same time, it's a reboot, fresh enough for new players. It checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they are going to jeopardize that against GTA.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. And to be fair, no one in the industry is going to try and jeopardize their game. So there's going to be a lot of games at the tail end of the year that are going to be
It's actually interesting if you look at the already confirmed release dates for this year. We have tons of games announced for this year.
Start,
Big ones, Mafia, Borderlands, and so on. There's basically nothing announced after May.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Everyone's waiting. Everyone is waiting. It's like crazy.
And I don't. No one blames them. No one blames them because GTA is an absolute juggernaut.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, and that's why I feel like Doom is not a fall or holiday season game. I feel Doom is more a summer game, like again, May, June, kind of game. And yeah, so we shall see. I think we will get it. We will get a release date.
Yeah.
So what about South of Midnight, which is also going to be at the Developer Direct?
You know what it is? I have seen so many new, and I'm thankful to the team at Compulsion for continuously putting out new clips recently. Just small clips, but enough to test the wet the taste buds, because from what I've kept seeing, it just looks better and better every time I see it. The platforming looks on point, the combat looks fun, the graphics look awesome, the sound's awesome, the combat looks fun. Like everything I've seen of it just makes me more excited to play the game. So I can't wait, and I think this one's going to be closer than we expect as well. I think it's going to be very soon.
I mean, since they have Avowed
in
February, right?
Yeah. Are you speaking of Avowed very briefly before, because this isn't included, I wanted to ask you, are you getting the premium edition upgrade in order to get the early access a week early?
Yes, I have. I already have that.
Nice.
Yes, I'm getting it.
Good.
I'm getting it. Absolutely.
Good. So that's exactly what I did. I was like, I need to play that game early.
Yeah. I'm not going to wait. And it's, I mean, the DLC comes along with this pre-order.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay $30 to play it 5 days early, but since I'm getting with that the DLC,
that's why I don't. That's why I don't mind about these upgrades, anyway, because it's you're also getting DLC. It's not like I'm just paying for the. It's a benefit that I'm playing it early, but it also means that I get access to the DLC when it comes out, which is awesome. So, So yeah, on that topic though, yes, that comes out February.
Midnight. Yeah, Avowed comes in February, right? So, and I don't think that they are going to pull a Ubisoft and move it.
No.
Yeah, because Assassin's Creed Shadows got delayed, but this is going to come out in February.
Yeah, so it's already pre-orders and everything up, so that's a done deal.
Yeah. This is a done deal. So this is settled. Then if we put Doom, let's say June.
Yeah.
Where do you put South of Midnight?
Tail end of March, April.
I would agree. I would agree that this makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what other games are going to come out for on Xbox after the summer break, they have the two juggernauts with Fable and Call of Duty. Right?
Yeah.
At some point, they will have to throw in Towerborn.
Yeah.
Which is not a big game, which is like feels more like an indie game.
Yeah.
You could say it's a AA game. I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. They use that also probably after the summer break. And that's why I think South of Midnight, actually, I would agree, March or April on South of Midnight. And I also couldn't agree more about what you said with the little clips that they have been sharing through their social team. I can't really think of a game that has done it to that degree. I mean, there are always like the social media teams of publishers or game developers that post trailers and such, or a screenshot here and there. But this is really cool, like to have these 20-second clips, right? 20, 30-second clips on a regular basis, sometimes showing off platforming, sometimes showing off combat. And
the boss fight with the giant alligator looked awesome.
Yes, boss fights. Like, this is really cool. It gives you like always a good idea on what the game is without revealing too much.
Yeah,
it's not like you feel you have seen much of the game, but you still have a pretty good idea what the game is going to be. It's going to be this mixture of platforming and combat, and hack and slash kind of combat, right? And honestly, every time I see something of South of Midnight, I just this looks phenomenal. It's a gorgeous art style. Not a fan of the stop motion thing, but luckily you can turn it off.
Yeah,
and
well,
then
actually,
it runs better smooth.
The I was going to say, I don't even think the stop motion is realistically implemented in the. From what I've seen anyway, is not really implemented in the out of cutscene moments. I think they might.
It is.
I think for the clips they haven't included it that way though. I think for the clips they've shown it with it
Not in all, but in some. It is definitely, and they've said it's in the gameplay.
Yeah.
But you can turn it off, which is awesome. It's all I need, right? So everyone can play it the way she likes it, and I do really think this is a sleeper hit, and I cannot wait to see. Probably, I think during that, since they are doing a very technical presentation with Doom, I think this is more about the story and lore, and world, and showing off beautiful art style.
I think what we might see in it as well that we haven't seen so far, because of course this is about voodoo and it's about the Deep South and mysticism and things like that. What we haven't seen is the voodoo abilities outside of flying and floating. So I think we might see kind of some of the magic abilities that you might have in the game as well. I think that might be cool.
I agree. John TJ sends in a super chat and asks, do we see Gears of War E-Day?
No.
I don't think at the developer direct.
Yeah.
I'm not even 100% sure if they are going to show it off again at this year's June showcase.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I mean, if they follow the track record of Gears 4 and 5, they've always had like the little teaser the year after they've shown gameplay, and then it came out before the next showcase.
Yeah.
So if they follow that logic, they're gonna show gameplay at this year's June showcase, and then they release it somewhere next year. However, I still think this time Gears is going to be a launch title for the next gen in 26.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm not sure if they are going to show it at the June showcase, because I don't think they are going to show off the next gen console at the June showcase. Maybe the handheld, not the actual console.
Yeah, and I think you know what it is? I think it'll be like a teaser as well. I think it'll be more of a kind of a placement thing. I don't think it'll be like a full announcement of it. I think they're going to like tease that there's a handheld in product or handheld being developed, like officially tease it. But I don't think they'll show us like the actual model of anything. I think it'll just be like
let's keep it to the segment.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
the games first. But yeah,
the games first. We will talk about this anyway because with CES. But yeah, Dutch. Expedition 33, Clair Obscure, is gonna be at the Developer Direct, and I said it earlier. I don't. If we guessed the games for the Developer Direct, and none of us had that game in there, which is not to say that we are not excited about it, because I love those JRPG-ish turn-based games, but most of them over the recent years, like your Octopath Travelers, like your Ayuden Chronicles, and so on, do have that like pixel art style, retro art style. They don't get me wrong, I loved Ayuden and especially Octopath Traveler 2. That was my, according to my Xbox year review thing, my most played game with above 100 hours or so. Yeah. And but they are all looking and feeling a little bit like, more an indie or AA production. And Expedition 33 has this, it looks like a fully fledged AAA game.
Yeah.
Beautiful visuals, AAA gorgeous graphics, right? Combined with that turn-based combat that can be so addictive. So if they nail the story in Expedition 33, I think this could be a really, really good sleeper hit. I don't know about you, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think it will be as well, to be fair. I think from what I've seen of it so far, it looks absolutely fantastic. I love the idea of what they're trying to stop, and the horribleness of the witch that's kind of casting or painting death. And of course, with every year that goes by, the age number of those who disappear goes down. I like that idea, and it's interesting to see kind of what enemies and what confrontations to go through to it, and the trials and tribulations, and with it, like you say, with it being a turn-based action RPG, which is it is it is an ATB turn-based game, but it has action elements built into that turn-based segment. It really freshens up the genre a little bit, I think. And it's kind of one of the first things I said was, I hope this does really well, because it will show Square Enix that turn-based RPGs still work.
I agree.
On a AAA level. I don't mean like
I think, let's be fair, Baldur's Gate has proven that.
I meant
that
more.
You can have that AAA feeling with a turn-based RPG.
No, I meant more on the ATB Final Fantasy, like previous Final Fantasy ATB kind of style turn-based, as opposed to the turn-based of the likes of Baldur's Gate, etc., which is it is turn-based, but a different type of turn-based RPG, if that makes sense. And not the ATB system's a little bit different. But yeah, that's what I would like for it. I would obviously love for this to do well. I can't wait to play it. It was one of those surprise games that when it was shown off, I think everyone was like, "What the fuck is this? This looks insane."
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when this lands. And again, because it's not a Microsoft game, it's not them deciding. It's up to the developers. So this could be February. This could be March. It's an early game. It's early 25. So it could be sooner than later.
Before this show, or before they announced this at the Developer Direct, I already thought that it had a release date. And for some reason, I thought it is March. It is obviously not. They said early, but I had in my head, and we prepared a little bit for the show on because we want to talk about what's coming this year a little later in the show, right?
Yeah.
And during that preparation, I realized, man, this is doesn't have a release date yet, and I always had in my head this is a March game, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
for some reason,
And of
it
course,
isn't. So
that man Troy Baker's returning again to do the lead role.
yeah,
that
absolutely.
man is
They
in
actually have a
demand.
couple of
Yeah.
yeah. They have a couple of really good voice actors in there, well-known names from the industry. So, yeah, man, looking forward to it. So now, Dutch, the big question. I want to know everyone in the chat as well. What's the mystery game? What's the fourth game? And one thing, Dutch, in the past, they usually had a fifth game.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, like last year they thrown in Visions of Mana. In there, which wasn't one of the 4 highlighted games in the announcement. So, what's the mystery game? Let us know in the chat. What do you guys think? Dutch, what are your thoughts?
Double Fine's game.
Double Fine. I've seen that. I asked this a little earlier on.
They've been
Twitter
ultra
and
quiet, and only recently, and I'm talking within the last couple of months, if not even sooner than that, it might have even been the beginning of this year, they kind of reappeared on Twitter again and said something like, "Okay, we're back again after like a hiatus." So it could be that they went just radio silent whilst they were working on whatever they're working on, and now they're like, okay.
And I mean, Psychonauts is already 4 years.
Exactly.
It's been 4 years since Psychonauts.
And we know if you've watched the documentary, which I highly recommend watching, by the way, if you haven't seen the documentary of Psychonauts and the way that Double Fine came to be. Fantastic documentary, and you need to watch it. That's a perfect encapsulation of the trials and tribulations of a small game studio, an independent game studio that was doing their own thing and then become part of Xbox, of course, and it helped them significantly. But it shows you the kind of the way they run, but it also shows you their game development process in terms of how they manage projects. So even when they were doing Psychonauts 2, they were also working on Psychonauts VR. They were also working on ideas for future games. They were also talking about X, Y, and Z. So they had so many things that they were doing kind of within different projects at the same time as Psychonauts 2. So it's very, very likely that whilst Psychonauts 2 was on one of those projects, they were already beginning the groundwork on anyway. So it's likely that this has probably been, it's 4 years since Psychonauts 2 has been out, but it's likely that this one's probably been in the boiling pot for at least a year before that, if not 2 years. So it's probably around about maybe from idea to beginning of production was probably about 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
So I think...
Yeah, that could be. Could be. I mean, I've seen a lot of speculation because the way they phrased it is fans will get an inside look at the selection of highly anticipated games coming to Xbox and Game Pass players this year. So the mystery game is a this year game, right?
And it's also an unannounced game, so it's not something we've ever heard of.
And here it gets tricky. They said, okay, we are going to visit a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game.
Yeah.
That is the phrasing that they used on the official Xbox Wire thing. Now, the unannounced game thing
was from Aaron Greenberg.
Is something people, and if you look at the context how Aaron Greenberg phrased this about it being an unannounced game, right? I'm not sure if this is what he meant, like a game that we really haven't heard or seen anything. So here's what I'm thinking, Dutch. There are two things that I could see being the really surprise game there. The first is right before Christmas, Rare posted
Everwild.
a random screenshot of Everwild,
Yeah.
and they said, "We see you next year."
Mm-hmm.
So, suggesting that we will see Everwild in 2025.
Yeah.
And now, why Everwild? Well, Everwild actually has been announced, yes, but like 5 years ago, right? And ever since, they've gone dead silent. 6 years ago. It was at the Game Awards 2018.
I want to add something here before you continue. What
Yeah.
happens if Everwild is the mystery fifth game?
It could be. It could very much be. I'm absolutely.
Which would mean
following
there's
the
an
trend.
unannounced
The
plus an announced.
The mystery game was usually always the fifth game was usually a third-party game that isn't in Game Pass.
Apart from when they did,
Just saying.
apart from when they did the Japanese game that had the surprise drop.
Yeah.
What's the name of it again? Why do I forget the name of that?
I'm blanking.
The studio got closed down the year after. Tango Gameworks game. Why the hell can't I remember it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But that was the surprise fifth the first time round.
Yeah. So it's about the unannounced thing with Aaron Greenberg. You know, it was not like he was posting, "Oh, this is going to be an unannounced game." It was more like a direct response to actually Walkerman Street. He asks, "What could be behind that question mark?" And he replied, "A surprise unannounced game. We hope you will enjoy along with the rest of the show." And I feel like with this unannounced thing, it could be like from the moment, didn't think it really through. I don't know. Since it wasn't like an official post. So I'm not 100% sure, and I could see Everwild being there. The other thing I was thinking about, and it would actually be an announced game, is ZeniMax Online.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2016, Dutch, that's like 8-9 years ago now.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name of the guy. A guy from ZeniMax Online posted that he is now the game director of an unannounced new online ZeniMax Online IP.
Yeah.
No. That game has been cooking for I can't really remember whether he posted it early 2016 or late 2016, 8-9 years in that ballpark area. ZeniMax Online has released updates and updates and updates for Elder Scrolls Online, but they haven't released a new game in more than a decade now.
Yeah.
Right? And since this game has been cooking for so long, I could see them announce that. And why? I see the thing about Psychonauts, Double Fine. Yeah, your point. I get that. Could very well be.
Yeah.
But if I look at Xbox's lineup, and I'm not complaining here. Don't get me wrong, but they have a stacked 2025.
Yeah.
It's all single player games.
Yeah.
Vowed, Doom, South of Midnight, Fable. Well, the annual Call of Duty, but this is just like a regular thing now. But it's all single player games, and at some point they kind of have to put in again a multiplayer, an ongoing game, and I could see actually that being the game, right? It would also make sense to announce that not just with a trailer during a June showcase or so. Because if it's an online IP, ZeniMax Online obviously it's going to be a massive MMO, new IP, is what we know. You need more than a trailer to announce such a game. You need a little bit explanation and to give a brief glimpse, like 10-minute segment or so. Every game gets like 10 minutes or so in that developer direct, right? Is way better than a trailer. And a trailer would be the thing if it's in the June showcase.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a good thing to announce a complex, big, massive online MMO with a 2-minute trailer in between dozens of other amazing games.
Yeah.
So that would make sense, but that's just my thought. So I don't know. I've seen a lot of people say Oblivion, the rumored remake, right? I mean, there have been more rumors this week about the Oblivion remake, that it's actually a full remake in Unreal 5 made by, what's their name? Something with V. Sorry, blanking on the name right now. The chat can help us out. Let me Google that real quick. That drives me nuts if I forget about names. Right. Where is it? Anyway, I can't find it from the with a quick search. Well, there has been the rumor out there that it's getting a remake, not just a remaster. It's actually going to run in Unreal 5. And at Virtuous, right? That was the studio. So I've seen a lot of people think about that, but I don't think that's the mystery game at the developer direct. Because usually where there's smoke, there's a fire. But
that might be a surprise fifth if there's still a fifth.
Yeah. I don't think that they are. If they do a full remake, new engine, Unreal 5, right? Not running on that very, very old Bethesda engine. That game takes time. Obviously, we don't know how long it has been in development. It could be very well ready. But where do they have so many big games this year, and large games and RPGs this year, with an Avowed, with a Fable, even South of Midnight looks more like, not like a 6-hour experience, but more like a bigger experience. So not sure if this is a 2025 game. I could see them announce it absolutely during the June showcase, if there's something to it. But just because the coincidence of that leak from someone on Reddit the other day doesn't imply that this is going to be automatically during the developer direct. I don't think we should make that connection just because this is a coincidence that the rumor has been put out there about Unreal 5 and everything just the other day. I don't think that this is related.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a couple of people have mentioned this as well, and of course, one in your chat, Dustin, and Kian in my chat have both said exactly the same thing. It's actually still running on the original engine. It's just using UE5 as a graphical shell.
I don't know how that is going to work, because the creation engine is very open, right? That's why it's called the creation engine. That's why the modding community is so big with these Bethesda games. And you can do tons of stuff with the creation engine. To use Unreal as a shell on creation engine, I don't know. I don't know. Not a super software pro, but it doesn't sound like a.
It's probably not a straightforward thing to do, but I would imagine it's you are capable of doing that if needs be.
But pardon me, could you I was distracted by the
No,
chat.
it's all right.
Sorry.
I said, yeah, it's not. It's with all kind of all engines. You can theoretically do that with any engine. To be fair, you can add. Okay, we're going to use this, and then use essentially create. And these are custom segments, and this is essentially what they'd have to do anyway. Just use a custom segment. Okay, this is the original, because Oblivion, of course, as we know, is running on a really old version of the creation engine.
Yeah, it's
So they have to build
Creation Engine 1.
Yeah. So that theoretically,
And-
for this remake, in order to do that, would have to build a custom engine built originally off that using Unreal Engine. So it would kind of be an amalgamation of two engines.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because the underlying system of
And the movement and everything. Yeah.
Of
And the item placements
engine
and everything.
is the item placement and physics and so on is kind of unique to the creation engine, and it's really not as simple as it sounds to rebuild that in Unreal 5, right? And we've seen two engines combined to a certain degree in other games. Think about Halo Infinite, right? Remember where the menu was built in Unreal on top of the Slipspace engine?
Yep.
So in theory, it's not something that is impossible. And since the creation engine is so open and lets you do tons of stuff, it could be.
And especially if they're only using Unreal as the graphical side of things, because you could never remake you could never remake Oblivion to look modern on the original creation engine.
And the more I think about it, it also makes sense if you outsource this remake.
Yeah.
Right? If you outsource a remake of a creation engine game and let them remake it in the creation engine, you kind of have to. Which studio can do that?
Yeah.
No other
Teach
studio.
them how to use it.
Yeah. I mean, no other studio than Bethesda is using the creation engine. So obviously you will not find another studio that has the talent to actually manage that. So yeah, now that I think about it, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Still kind of hard to think about that. And honestly, I'm not even sure if the rumors are true, if it's a full-fledged remake or if it is more like a remaster, like improved resolution stuff. And so we shall see. I don't think we will see it at the developer direct, though. I don't think so. Yeah. But that's just me. So what is the chat? What is the community thinking?
I've had a funny one here. I've had a funny one here from Ray Oid, and he said, "What if it's Hi-Fi Rush 2?"
So Pyromat sends in a super chat and says the mystery game is Hoyoverse and Zenless Zone Zero. Fingers crossed. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Zenless Zone Zero is a relatively big game in the Hoyoverse.
Yeah.
The Hoyoverse is this big Japanese thing that, to be honest, not up my street at all.
So Dustin Lambert thinks it's Final Fantasy 16.
That's a good shout, but it's a new game.
Yeah, it's not a new game, but it's an unannounced game.
Yeah, but 16's already out and about, so even if it's not new, it's not unannounced either because it's out.
Yeah, and I don't think it.
Maybe's again if they do the fifth game, then they go okay, surprise.
Maybe the fifth.
Yeah.
Maybe the fifth. The fifth I could see. Yeah, I agree. But to get it, I mean, the game is out. Most people have played it already, either on PlayStation or PC, and why would you put it in a developer direct? There are better games to highlight during a developer direct, but it's a good shout. It's something I haven't thought about, and I could see it as the fifth game. Yeah. Amish AI thinks it's the Oblivion remake. I mean, a lot of people think that.
Kian in my chat thinks it could be IO Interactive's Dragon game.
Oh,
it's a good shout as well.
Interesting. That's a good shout. That's a good shout.
They haven't stipulated it's a Microsoft studio. They've just said a studio.
Yeah, that's but it's probably too early, right? That game, that studio was it founded in 24 or 3?
No, IO Interactive's been working on this game for...
No, not IO, the new studio that they built there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Amish AI says, and that's a good shout, people can fly making some games for Microsoft. It's also very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pure Dead Beat Punk says Everwild is the 4th game and it's a shadow drop. Oh.
Oh god, wishful thinking. I think even if Everwild was announced, that's still not a this year game.
Dustin Lambert in the chat brings in an interesting thought. Forza Horizon 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, someone asked Jez about this earlier as well, and he hasn't heard anything about Forza Horizon. He doesn't expect it to be this year or talked about this year. He doesn't. There was another game somebody brought up, and then he mentioned Gears of War ED, and he says he's not sure if that's going to be spoken about this year. So, but he's going to look into it. But he hasn't heard anything about Forza Horizon or anything yet. And those were the one. They would be super easy to confirm on his end if it was.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Drawn TJ sends in a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. And he says Blur Studio can do it. I think he's referring to the using Unreal in a different engine. Yeah, but Blur usually did it with only for cutscenes, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Has not to my knowledge, at least, been done in gameplay, right?
Oh, that's a good one. Kian's got another one here. Toys for Bob's new game.
Too early.
Think so? Because all they did was announce that they've been working on a game with Xbox after they split, but they were doing something prior to splitting from Xbox anyway. They just announced strictly that they were splitting from Xbox and were working on a title, so it could be that. And we were mentioning Toys for Bob for a while before they left Xbox.
That has been only a year, and I don't think that they do the high developer direct.
Yeah, but when was the last time Toys for Bob released a game?
Yeah, but they have been on Call of Duty all the time. They split from Microsoft, and they literally started working on their new game after they split, and that has been about a year now. And I think that's way too early. Early.
To be fair, I think that'll only be, and I don't think it's going to be like a super hard title for them to do anyway, because I don't think it'll be a giant project. I think if it's going to be anything, it's going to be a new Crash or a new Spyro or something along those lines. I don't think it's going to be a big title.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think it's a game we will see this year. I really don't think so. Yeah, man, we will see. We shall see. It's not long. 2 more weeks. January 23rd. So today in 2 weeks, and we're gonna find out really soon if nobody leaks it up front.
It's
right?
nice. It's nice having surprises, because we could all be absolutely, completely, utterly incorrect, and it's something no one's expected.
It could be. It could very well be.
Oh no, because what about
the one thing we need to keep in mind? It's going to come out this year.
What about
right? It is a this year game.
Oh no, the heist game.
Contraband.
Yes.
Interesting. Could it be Contraband? I mean,
that's been silent. Silent as hell.
They've been dead silent with that game. I mean, when was that announced? 2020, I think.
Was it that far back? Or was it?
Yeah,
it might have been actually.
Could be 21.
Might be 21. I think it might be 21.
But the one thing I do remember is when they announced it, they said we have been working on that game already for 3 years.
Yeah.
So even if it was 21, that makes this year like 6-7 years now, right?
Yeah.
In development. So Contraband could, although it brings up the question, since it's a heist-based game, do you put up a Contraband against a GTA? Because GTA Online, a heist game, is
Yeah.
gonna dominate that. I don't think they this year makes sense for Contraband.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's, you know what is super interesting is that we are sitting here talking about the mystery Xbox game. There's like such a gigantic list of games that it could be.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. If you think about all the games already known for this year, right? In between Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom, Fable, Call of Duty, and so on. There's still a massive list of games that could be ready for this year.
That we both know of and don't know of.
Exactly. And that it just shows you how good the pipeline looks now for Xbox after all these years, which is awesome. Absolutely awesome. All right, Dutch. Let us move on from the developer direct and let's talk about CES a little bit. I mean, it's not like it wasn't like a June showcase kind of thing where we got tons of interesting announcements, right? And trailers and such. It's more hardware based, obviously.
Yeah.
The new AMD, let's start with the little one. AMD announced, of course, RDNA 4 graphic cards, their Radeon series, continuing with RDNA 4, which for the first time also has hardware accelerated NPUs for AI compilations, right? Which is cool. The big one was obviously the RTX 5000 series was announced.
Yeah.
And no surprise there. Yeah, we have the 5070, 5070 Ti, your 5080 and 5090.
Yeah.
I was surprised about the pricing.
Very, and
Especially
their claims saying the 5070 Ti is on par with the 4090.
Not at the same resolution though.
Yes.
It was a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's still nonetheless.
But
pretty,
theoretically,
pretty
like for me,
claims.
if I'm PC gaming, I do not care if it's 4K native.
Yeah, I
at
agree.
all.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone was out there, right, defending their 4090s. Yeah, man, but those are not real frames because, the multi-frame gen tech that is now supported in DLSS 4, because that is the one thing that comes along with the 5000 series. You have the multi-frame generation.
I did see a post that somebody put up actually of a demonstration on Black Myth Wukong on PC using the new 50 series cards, and it went from obviously the native version, native 4K, which was 24 frames a second that they had run it at with everything, all the bells and whistles, and then they had the upscaled version on the new 50 series cards, and it was running at 220 frames a second.
Yeah.
And it looked really
that's
crisp.
The thing, right?
Yeah, and it had everything in.
They can squeeze now up to 3 frames in between native frames, which is awesome. And honestly, I would not have guessed that NVIDIA goes down with the pricing of the
it's insane.
GPUs.
Yeah.
That was the biggest surprise to
$700 for the 5070 Ti is looking very appealing.
Yeah. Well, where was the price on a 5070 Ti? I
can't
recall.
$700.
$700. This is crazy because the 5080 is what I'm eyeballing with
1,000.
it is, yeah, at 1,100 euros, and the 4080 came out at 1,700 euros. Right?
Yeah.
This is like $600 less, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I in 100 years I would have not guessed that. Yeah. So this is really interesting to see, right? And even the 5090 is still like a super priced GPU. Nevertheless, also didn't go up in pricing. I would have easily guessed that it launches at a higher price than the 4090 launched, right? And that's super interesting. And along with it, they've not, of course, shown off DLSS 4, which that this is gonna be again bench at the market when it comes to AI upscaling technologies, and frame generation technologies is fantastic. So good times for PC gamers, man. I know you've the big plan to build a new PC this year.
Yeah.
And I know you've been eyeballing with a used 4090.
Yeah.
But now seeing the 50 or a 5000 series, what are your thoughts, man, now for your PC build?
Yeah, price tags wise is the big one, of course. I'm still waiting for the benchmarks to see whether or not I just stick with a 40 series because of pricing, or because of capabilities and what I'm actually going to get out of it. And of course, we know DLSS 4 will be backwards compatible with the 40 series cards, so that's fine. The only thing you're really going to get is the AI and frame gen new stuff on the new cards.
Yeah.
But on that note, the 5070 Ti or 5080 pricing wise is looking very attractive. I just really need to see the actual theoretical benchmarks of 4080 versus 5080 and 4070 Ti versus 5070 Ti and see what the differences are.
Makes sense.
I'm not going to do whole 5090 or 4090. I don't think, because it's still, both of those cards are still going to be in like the 1,500, $2,000 mark, and that's like, no, that's like too much for me. I'm not that much on PC. I want like the middle park one, which will be absolutely fine for what I need to do. I don't want 4K native on PC, so I don't need that. I don't need that grunt. So for me, it's looking very interesting. That 50, especially if the 5070 Ti in benchmarks is better than the 4070 or the 4080, then I will absolutely just get the 5070 Ti straight away, because that price tag is just insane.
So I'm still on the 3080 in my PC. I skipped the 4000 series. I don't think I need to upgrade my.
I'm 3070 at the minute, so it's a 2-gen jump for me as well.
Yeah. So, and I was like, prior to CES, I was more like, well, if they bring out the 5080, and it's probably going to be even more expensive than the 4080 was. So we are talking now close to more in the 2,000 euro ranges. Was I expected that. That's why I was pleasantly surprised. But now that we are in the 1,000 euro ballpark, with the 5080, I'm actually debating it with myself. And the only thing is, I would need probably also to upgrade my CPU then.
Did you also see, now this is on the NVIDIA topic, NVIDIA are looking to get into the CPU game.
Yes, I've seen that, which is super interesting, man. Also, especially if you think about future consoles.
Yes.
That is definitely,
So you're thinking 5080 then at the minute, are you? You're in the you're thinking maybe it's 5080 at the moment then.
Yeah, 5080. Yeah. Even though I do agree that 1440p is fairly good on PC, doing with a 5080 1440p is just gorgeous, you know.
Yeah.
I like to have the sliders up at ultra.
Yes, yes. That's what I do as
that's
well.
my
First
thing.
thing I do is just max out everything and go, right, okay,
And then, of
what's the
course,
frames looking like?
yeah, and then it's also like this thing about content creation, right?
Yeah.
Where do you get the benefit there as well? So yeah, man, the 5090 is just not in my budget.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
Well, not
also
not in the
waiting,
budget
of
that you
course.
want to spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I think a lot of this is what when we say not in the budget. Theoretically, we can, but it's not something that we realistically want to do. That's like spending for the sake of spending.
You know, the budget I have to not just consider my hobby
Exactly.
of gaming. I have a family to
Exactly.
provide for.
Exactly.
I have a mortgage to pay and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And the economy in Germany isn't looking that good. So
Yeah.
it's really not in the budget. TJ asks when we will see World of Warcraft come to Xbox.
I mean, they've never ever
honestly-
they've never ruled it out. The developers
Yeah.
themselves have never ruled it out either. They've said you never know.
You never know, but I don't think
I think if it's going to happen, it'll be next gen. If Xbox go down the route of
Windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But a dedicated console port, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Let us use that as a segue into the next CES topic. There have been some interesting things regarding Xbox. Xbox has been basically on the stage with every developer, right?
Yeah.
Matt Booty was on the stage of AMD. He was talking about the partnership with AMD that they have had for over a decade now, and that they brought so many important technologies and bringing FSR 4 to PC now in Black Ops 6, for instance. Yeah. Later this year. FSR 4 being AMD's first technology that uses actually an NPU, an AI hardware-based upscaling, which is very interesting. So let's see, because so far it's well, they have kind of used AI with the FP and FP16 capabilities in FSR 2 and 3, but it's not the same that you have like hardware accelerated AI technology in FSR 4. Is going to change that, and let's see if FSR actually now comes in the ballpark of a DLSS, which would be very interesting to see, right?
Yeah.
But interesting, Matt Booty there up on the stage with them. Then Jason Ronald had an interview. Of course, they've been on NVIDIA stage as well with Doom, right? Showing off path tracing in Doom. And then Jason Ronald was, I think, the super interesting one, who is now vice president of Xbox hardware, right? And
next gen hardware,
yeah. The wizard, the man with the most epic beard in the business, has said that they are working on improvements for handheld gaming. It was in the context of handheld gaming. They are bringing the best of Windows and Xbox OS together later this year, and we will see more of this later this year, which is very interesting. So it's basically what we talked a little bit about earlier in the show, this idea of merging the Xbox OS and Windows together.
Yeah.
Well, we speculated about that, but it's also very interesting to see that he talks about this being a 25 thing.
Yeah.
Now, whether it comes out this year, we don't know. He didn't say it comes this year, but we will see more of this later this year. So we talking about here? Is it something for their Xbox handheld? Which I would assume, of course, if they do now a merging of Windows and Xbox operating system. Yeah. On what layer do you think this is going to happen? What devices are they targeting? When do you expect this? What are your thoughts around this? Because I have so many things I need to say about this, but I'll let you go first, man.
Yeah. I think they will do a kind of culmination of two things. I think the potential for ROG to have one of the first partnership ones with Xbox, mainly because ROG runs on Windows currently.
Yeah, true. As does the Lenovo Legion Go
S. Yeah.
And a couple of others. Yeah.
And obviously, on that note, we'll talk about that in a bit, but that Lenovo Legion Go S is going to be the first one that also has the ability to use Steam UI.
Yeah.
So I think it will be a culmination of showing off potentially the Xbox handheld later in the year to say, okay, this is what we're working on, but we're also partnering with, because they want as many people to do it as possible.
Yes.
So they're going to do the Steam OS like operation where they'll go, okay, but this is also available for third parties to use. So the likes of Lenovo will be able to use the new Xbox Windows UI for their next handheld, and so on and so forth. So I think it'll be a culmination of two things. I think we'll see it across partners like Lenovo and ROG.
And Asus.
Yeah. And we'll also see Xbox's own version of that and see what they're coming up with the Surface team.
So you think we see the Xbox handheld?
I think it would make more sense as to why Jason Ronald himself is speaking on it, because he's in charge of next gen hardware, is not just the UI segment of that, and he's talking about. We're talking about this later on in the year as a hardware person specifically. Then theoretically he would be talking about what he's doing with the Xbox segment of that. So I think it'll be a culmination of both. It'll be showing off, okay, this is our hardware, but in our Play Anywhere strategy, our Xbox Windows UI is now available to our partners to create devices that will also be able to access X, Y, and Z. So I think they'll do a two-way strategy. We know they want to have everything Play Anywhere, so I think they'll continue to push that message. So yeah, I think we will. If he's mentioning that, then yes, I think later on this year, probably the June showcase, we'll probably get a teaser of that hardware. I don't think the hardware will release this year. I still firmly believe that'll be a next year thing, but I think we'll get a first glimpse on what that handheld hardware will look like. Muted.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, interesting. So I could see two potential things how this turns out.
Yeah.
Because you already mentioned the Steam OS, and I've said this on previous podcasts. Next gen is not the battle about hardware, it's the battle about the store. The storefront. Who owns which storefront? This is also why I still think it is. Everyone has this idea of Steam being available on the Xbox OS.
Yeah.
For me, that's still kind of hard to believe, because where is the business model in that? Xbox is not gonna battle it out about hardware sales, that they suddenly sell the next Xbox at such a price point that they make all their money from hardware sales. It's not gonna happen, never ever.
Yeah.
So they have the money comes from the store. It comes from buying subscriptions, microtransactions, and games.
Yeah.
And if they allow Steam, which is basically PC gaming, yes, you have the other storefronts. but no one's using Epic,
No
one.
No.
right? And the other stores. So PC gaming is Steam.
Yeah.
If they allow Steam on the Xbox console, they will not make a single dime if you buy a game off of Steam. So unless there is a deal in place that when you buy a game on Steam, Xbox gets its cut, which is then what do you do when they buy a game on PC and you have it in your library and just play it on your console, right? The business model on how is Xbox going to make money if you buy a game on Steam and then you don't get a cut from the microtransactions and you don't get, where is the business model? This is what I fail to see. If someone has an idea.
I think on that front, it's the first section of the business model, of course, is Game Pass.
Yeah,
the first section.
Yeah.
The second section, of course, is Play Anywhere. So if you have a console, you buy it on Xbox, you get to play it on your handset, which means you get it in both areas. And of course, for them, realistically going forward, they need to be pushing publishers and developers for the Play Anywhere.
I totally agree. But if you'd have Steam on PC anyway, and on the console, what would hinder you to buy, or what would entice you to buy, even if it's Play Anywhere?
Yeah.
Buy a game on the Xbox store.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I totally know what they are going for with their storefront as a business model. It's Game Pass, it's Play Anywhere.
Yeah.
And getting your games out through their storefront. But I'm asking about the business model of Steam being on the console.
Yeah.
I don't see it. If someone in the chat has an idea, what is the business model there?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just missing something.
Unless because they have a good relationship with Gabe, and of course, if they are allowing Steam on console, maybe there is an agreement in the background.
Yeah, then you need kind of an agreement as well on PC, because then every time you buy a game on Steam on PC and you can play it on your console, they are not getting the cut anyway. So it is super complicated.
It is.
And if there's a logic explanation on what the business model would be, I would love to hear it. But I haven't heard anyone talk about it, except that it would be awesome for us gamers, which is true.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying,
how would it work?
I don't want it. On the contrary, I'm just saying I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
So the thing is about the store. Yeah, and that's always when people always tell me about, it's not about console hardware sales. You're right, it's not about the hardware sales per se, but it's about the sales of the store. Because with every console you sell your store, and you only have that storefront, and it locks you into the storefront. That's why it totally is about hardware sales. Even though the hardware sales itself is not the metric is how much money do you make through your storefront, which is an exclusive storefront on all consoles. On Nintendo, you can only buy it through Nintendo storefront, on PlayStation and you get the drill. The next gen is the question, how are they going to set up the storefront? And I totally believe what you also mentioned is that everything is an Xbox thing, is basically the push for Play Anywhere. Play Everywhere is the selling point to unite your storefront from PC and console. You buy a game, every third-party game. You buy Dragon Age, doesn't matter whether you buy it on console or on PC, you can play it on both. I do believe that this is going to be mandatory for the next gen.
And also I want to add to that as well. Obviously, Xbox are pushing to have all of your games be available to stream through the cloud. That would also emphasize the Play Anywhere structure of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you have all those games then available through Cloud Play as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate goal. Whether they have that at launch for next gen or somewhere later, we will see. But this is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And I do think that this is going to be mandatory for next gen. The only way they can do that is by unifying the Xbox OS and Windows.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is always this licensing issue, this legal issue. So your console kind of have to become a PC. It has to run on Windows. Developers will not have to be forced to make a different version of the game for a console OS. It's their PC version they already have. And if you sell it through the Xbox Store, you can play it on every device that does support the Xbox Store, and the Xbox Store is then the exact same store on PC, on console, on the handhelds, and wherever. Yeah. True play anywhere. True, everything is an Xbox. That's the ultimate target. Now, with these statements from Jason Ronald, he said, well, we are bringing together the best of the two worlds, best of both worlds. Yeah, but the idea is, of course, to have a look and feel of the Xbox OS, because that is what they need to target for handheld gaming. He was very specific that the targeted devices for this new interface are handhelds. So now you can think about this in two different ways. The one option is they can do kind of an emulator. You have Windows running and you emulate the Xbox OS. However, that's going to work because of underlying hardware structures and so on. But you could, in theory, emulate the Xbox OS on Windows and therefore have access through Windows and everything. The other thing really is just that they do a Windows Lite version.
Yeah.
Throw out all the bullshit that is included in Windows and make just a super nice looking, similar to console looking user interface, but it's still Windows. I think, again, that's the way they are going for. The interesting thing is that he said, we are going to see more of this year. And now it becomes really interesting. If they do this Windows Lite thing, or whether it's an emulation, doesn't matter. The interesting thing is, when do you release that to the public? And what is your target device? Because if it's true what you said, and they are targeting to basically launch that new Xbox Windows UI, on an Asus ROG Ally and a Lenovo Legion Go and so on. They could do that. And we do an update, and my ROG Ally suddenly runs this new Windows Xbox thing.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome to get rid of the pain. When do you do that? You kind of need to do that this year, because that's the other thing that came out of CES. The Steam OS is opening up for other devices. Starting April, they bring out a Lenovo Legion GoesseN, or what it's called.
Yeah.
A Lenovo handheld that is running Legion Go. Yeah. That is running Steam OS.
Yeah.
Steam is already there. Steam is doing what Xbox wants to do with this thing that Jason Ronald described. But they are already there. So you cannot wait another 2 years to make this a thing and launch it at the end of 26 along with the new gen Xbox. This is too long. You will have lost the market, because by then it's not just one Lenovo Legion Go, and they will own that space. Steam is gonna dominate that market really, really soon. Yeah. And it's the exact same thing that Steam OS is doing that Windows or Xbox wants to do with the Windows Xbox UI thing. We need a proper name for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so when do you release that? Are you waiting till November 26, when we all expect the next gen Xbox? By then, Asus, Lenovo will have that thing, will have Steam OS very well implemented on their handhelds and dominate that market even further. I have zero doubt that some of these hardware manufacturers, whether it's Lenovo or whether it's Asus or whether it's Dell or someone we don't know about just yet,
Yeah.
is gonna take the Steam OS, which is free to use, and
Yeah.
put it on a proper console. Just for the sake of argument, Asus is gonna make a console and put that under your TV, and you have your Steam OS in a beefy hardware console on your TV.
Yeah.
And suddenly Steam OS is in the console market, and it's the biggest competitor because they have the best storefront.
Yeah.
And it's always about the storefront. All your thousands of PC games come along with you on your handhelds, and you can choose. Do you like Steam Deck itself better? Do you choose the Lenovo? And it is convenient. It is good. That's the thing. It is good. And Steam OS is already there. They are coming out in this April, in 3 months. We will have the Steam OS as the de facto gaming OS out there. So how long is Microsoft going to wait to bring their Windows Xbox version of things? And then it becomes interesting. If this is targeted first and foremost now towards handhelds, do you release that as an update for all the Windows handhelds out there this year? What's the innovation for the next gen and your handheld that you are going to release along, which is what we all think, is going to happen, that they release their Xbox handheld along with the proper next gen console in 26. But isn't that too late? And what's the innovation then if the Windows UI is already out there? And this is what makes this so interesting, because it's really now the race and the competition is out there. And the competition is not PlayStation or Nintendo. The competition is Steam now.
Yeah.
They have the de facto gaming OS. It's convenient. It doesn't have the bullshit you have to go through with Windows, constant driver updates and blue screens and whatnot.
Funnily enough, they mentioned that with this new Windows Xbox UI thing, is they want to do away with the faff of the constant driver updates and things like that. They want to just make it easy. I think they've mentioned that very briefly, that they don't want the whole rigmarole of driver update stuff there. They just want to make it streamlined. That is what we need. And one thing in the chat as well I want to kind of touch on. A lot of them are asking on, do we know whether or not it's a fad or whether or not it's profitable or anything like that in terms of the handheld market? The profitability in the handhelds themselves is relevant because it's the battle of the storefront. The software is what makes them money. So if they can get their software in the hands of many more people through different devices and de facto then selling more software, which is making them the money, that is ultimately the end game. So if they sell 2 million handhelds or 3 million handhelds or even 1 million handhelds, that's still 1 million more customers that are buying software that you're making money from. And ultimately that's the bottom line. They want as many people to be sort of get your software from that marketplace as they can.
Exactly.
Which is why they want to sell these units, and that's why Steam are really going balls to the wall for it. And the likes of Lenovo and all of those are a different kettle of fish altogether because they don't have their own. The likes of Steam has a marketplace. Microsoft has a marketplace. If Sony decide to get into it again, they'd have their own marketplace. And again, they need to bring it out their own PC marketplace in order to have something to go out on three fronts there as well. And I think they will do.
Yeah.
Lenovo and Asus for ROG are a little bit different. They'll have supply agreements in place with the likes of these Steam and or Xbox for the operating system to say, okay, we get a cut of X by having this system run on this. So for them, it's a different ball game.
It's very, very true. And this is why I think, yes, Xbox is going to do the Windows Xbox UI thing on handhelds first, and handhelds that are already out there, you will be able to download that thing on all the Windows handhelds, the Lenovo's and the Asus, ROG Allies. because of course with on the handheld side of things, and actually maybe even available for PCs, to get more convenience into PC gaming as well. One big benefit that these Windows-based devices do have, and that's the main reason why I have the ROG Ally and not the Steam Deck anymore, is not because it's more convenient. On the contrary, the ROG Ally is a pain in the ass because of Windows. Yeah, it's a fantastic hardware device. The hardware is amazing. Yeah, but it is a pain in the ass because of Windows. But it has the benefit, it has Windows. I can run Steam, I can run Epic, I can run Game Pass, which is what you cannot do on a Steam OS device.
Natively, without dual booting or anything like that.
Yes, there are. But let's be realistic. How many customers of a Steam Deck actually jailbreak the Steam Deck and install the Xbox PC app there? This is 0.001% of the customers. It's really not a thing. Yeah. You lose all your warranty. It's a pain in the ass to do, and nobody is doing that. There are certain hardcore fans out there that do that, but the very, very vast majority is not going to jailbreak a Steam OS device. And not gonna happen. And so this is the real benefit that Windows has now. So they can bring their storefront and still make a Steam available on these Windows-based PC handhelds. That still brings up the question: what are they going to do with their own handheld? If they have the Windows Xbox UI out there for all manufacturers, the Asus and Lenovo's and everyone, what is the unique selling point of their own handheld? What is that then, right? What is that thing going to run? So this is such a complex topic, man. And it is really going to be interesting to see how it turns out. I just feel that Xbox, and I think that is also the reason why Jason Ronald teased that now at CES. They know we have to talk about this, even if it's a year out until we are finished with this. But if we don't promote that, and if we don't show it off, and if we don't lay out our vision, we are going to lose the race against Steam. Because it is only a matter of time that we are not just talking about handhelds. The Steam OS is going to come to, someone will make a classic console. Every hardware manufacturer out there can now use the Steam OS, take it, build a console, and put Steam under your TV. It is such a dynamic and fast thing in this day and age that Xbox really cannot afford to wait too long to have their thing, and it needs to be good. This is the other thing. It's Xbox's biggest problem, always has, and probably forever will be, is a typical Microsoft problem. Is they have a great vision. They have a great vision, but the execution isn't there. It took them 7 years to get Game Pass to where it was supposed to be from the get-go. It took them, xCloud even still isn't there. And xCloud launched 2018, I want to say, right? And xCloud still isn't where they want it to be. Play Anywhere. That was Quantum Break 2014, 15? We're still not there. We're still not there that Play Anywhere is a thing. It's only available for most games in Game Pass, and the very occasional third-party game. It is like 0.00001% of the games coming out. That have Play Anywhere. They have always this fantastic vision, but they lack in execution.
Yeah.
And so this is the real thing. If they do the Windows Xbox OS thing, UI thing that Jason Ronald described, it needs to hit. It needs to come out soon, and it needs to be good. It actually needs to deliver the promise of, okay, even though this is Windows, you are not going to notice that it's Windows. It feels like Jason Ronald said it. Yeah, we want it more to feel like an Xbox rather than Windows. He literally said that. But it needs to be good, and it really needs to deliver that.
Yeah.
If you're still like having to deal with through driver issues and blue screens and all the pain that comes along with Windows gaming, SteamOS is going to dominate and get market share in that thing, in that space. And with that, they lose the store, and the battle is about the storefronts.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. For James in the chat there saying he doesn't think Xbox are making a handheld. They are. We've been saying this for a long time. We've been saying this for like 2 years now. We're definitely making a handheld. What we know is the Surface team's looking at the there's a specific Surface team that are looking at creating a handheld, but of course Jason Ronald's overseeing Xbox's next gen strategy for hardware. So they're definitely making something. Whether or not we see that handheld this year is another thing. But even Phil Spencer himself said it was a way out yet from when it's going to be released and or seen. That was last year. So yeah, it's pretty much, it's a definite that they're making one. It's just when we see it. It's just when we see it.
It's a question when we see it.
Yeah.
And I still believe that they intend to do this 2 SKU launch again. With next gen, we get one proper classic console.
I think the handheld might replace the entry console area. It might replace where the Series S was, and instead of having the Series S, you think they're still going to do a Series S type thing?
No, they don't have a Series S.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think it'll replace that. I think instead of on the 2 SKU approach, it'll be handheld and console.
Yeah, exactly. Handheld and console. But price-wise, the handheld will be not in the region of a Series S. That's what I
agree. I agree. It'll be more. Yeah.
It's still.
But on that note, though, I think the console will be more as well. I think the console could be in the ballpark of 600-700.
Absolutely.
And then the handheld will be in the ballpark of 400-500, and that's kind of the idea that I'm thinking of, really.
Yeah.
The handheld will kind of be the entry one, which will be able to be dockable as a console.
Yeah, I agree. See, the interesting thing about this Windows Xbox UI also is that if the next gen Xbox console and then Xbox handheld and all the other handhelds from Asus and Lenovo and so on can run a Windows console OS.
Yeah.
Windows-based console OS. You don't need generations anymore.
Nope.
There's absolutely no reason to have because if all those games run on Windows, basically PC, there's absolutely zero need for a console generation, a classic console generation anymore.
Just yearly iterations.
Yeah, you can have yearly, bi-yearly, whatever iterations whenever a hardware manufacturer thinks it's good to make another device that is more juicy, beefy. They can do it, and because you don't have to make dedicated console versions anymore. You just run the PC version, and you dial back the resolution, frames, and LOD and according to your device, and be done with it, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And so this idea of bringing a Windows version to a console really gets rid of this generational idea that you have dedicated versions of games that run on a dedicated hardware set. It renders them, and this is what SteamOS is already doing. If Asus decides tomorrow to make like a 2,000 euro priced handheld that has like super beefy specs, everything that you can download through Steam, you just play, and you play Cyberpunk with path tracing on your handheld. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Steam is already doing it, and I think this is what Xbox also intends, and that this is going to be kind of like the last classic launch of a generation. And after that, since everything is Windows based, you have just iterations. You bring out better hardware, and you can run your game.
You don't have to worry about leaving people behind either. You don't have to worry about leaving people behind across 3-4 iterations of a device, because it'll still run the games that you get on Steam and Xbox. It'll make no difference because it's a PC version.
Exactly. Drawn TJ sends in a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. And he asks, do you think they merge storefronts?
No, I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks back, maybe before Christmas. The way the ROG Ally kind of does it is you kind of get the icons of kind of multiple. It basically shows you what the game is. This one's an Xbox game, this one's a Steam game, this one's an Epic game, and you kind of just it's there. So it kind of looks a bit different. If you ever see a ROG Ally and you see the way the games are presented, you'll understand. But I think it'll be kind of akin to that if they go down that route where you can access all games. I think it'll be akin to that kind of thing where you can kind of see the icon of what storefront that's from.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think they're going to merge like Steam and Xbox storefront. What they are going to merge is the PC, Xbox storefront and the console storefront.
Yeah,
this is gonna be one unified storefront, but I don't see Windows and Steam or Windows and Epic or something like that merging. Xbox and Steam. Dutch, we could fill out 2 more podcasts about this because this is such a complex topic. From what's the business case going to be to when do you bring that out, on what devices you're going to bring that out. This is a really, really complex thing. And it is without a doubt that we will come back to this topic throughout this year in this podcast multiple times, because this is something really interesting and exciting, and something that is potentially going to change the gaming landscape, especially with the new competitor that is Steam now. Exciting times ahead for 2025. And with that, Dutch, I want to segue into 2025, because we didn't have like a proper discussion about what to expect this year from in gaming in 2025. We know tons of games, and I have a list here in front of me that I prepared for this podcast. We could go through, but I want to ask you a couple of more general questions about 25 and what you expect before we maybe go through some of the biggest games and the highlights of this year. The usual comparison that you make is, okay, who's the more exciting year ahead, right? Xbox, PlayStation, and consider that it's more than an open secret now that the Switch 2 is going to come.
That thing's leaked more than a drain has this week.
Dude.
I know the ins and outs of the Switch.
It's like the leaks are crazy. So Nintendo is gonna launch the Switch soon. Switch 2 rather sooner than later. I would assume maybe April ballpark, plus minus a month. is when we're gonna see the Switch 2. So how do you feel about the three consoles? And now we probably need to include Steam in that discussion as well,
Yes.
since we have dedicated Steam OS devices now out there. But no, Xbox lineup, PlayStation lineup, Nintendo's lineup. How do
Yeah.
you feel about those lineups for this year?
Yeah, of course. First of all for Nintendo. Unfortunately, that's happened, but it's their fault for just dragging it out so long. And it's been an open secret that Switch 2 has been in development for years now.
Yeah.
And they've just been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And again, leakers have just got fed up of waiting, so they're just like, yeah, this is the Switch 2. This is what it looks like. These are the new Joy-Cons work. This is how they're magnetic. This is how it blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So they've literally showed off the entire thing. The only thing they haven't showed off is what the new UI looks like and how things like that work, which is the only thing we can look forward to kind of seeing now. But it's a huge year for Switch, for Nintendo. Of course, this is a predecessor to pretty much one of their most successful consoles ever, behind the original Super Nintendo. The second
Wii.
most, which is just
The
insane.
Super Nintendo actually didn't sell that big numbers.
Well, it's just the original Nintendo that sold the big numbers.
Hang on. Nintendo console sales numbers. I mean, you take out the handhelds. The DS was actually with 154 million.
Yeah.
Right there. Then you have the Switch actually is the best-selling Nintendo console with at around 146 million. And then of course the Game Boys close to 120 million. And then the Wii sold more than 100.
Yes, yeah, I forgot. The Wii was unbelievably popular.
And let me see. I have to scroll down really long in that list. The NES was at 60 million, and the Super Nintendo didn't even hit 50 million.
Right.
Yeah. So
strange.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the DS makes sense, and so does the Wii. I remember the Wii being in everybody's house. To be fair, everybody had a Wii to play bowling and Wii Sports and things like that, and I always remember that. And of course, the memes of people breaking televisions when they didn't put the strap on. But yeah, it is of course the predecessor to the, as you mentioned, most successful console of all time. So it is a big thing for them to make sure they hit it out of the park. And of course, we've had rumored performance things of anywhere between PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro as the kind of benchmark of performance thing. For them, that's a big leap, believe it or not. If it's anywhere near that, for them, that's big.
You can't expect a hardware beast with the next Switch, right?
Definitely not, because they're trying to make as much profit as possible.
These comparisons to PS4 Pro kind of level thing is kind of weird, because the Pro was designed to target a 4K resolution, and the Switch 2 is still going to mainly target a 1080p resolution, because for handheld purposes, right?
And battery length,
but it will feature DLSS to upscale when you are in docked mode, and get the image quality up accordingly, right? This is so it is really not a good comparison, I think.
Exactly. But in terms of its power, of course, for them, the one thing we've been saying it's never going to be a power comparison between console and Switch, because that's not even a question. What we've always said about Nintendo is give them more power, because the developers on Nintendo are absolute wizards with what they've had to struggle with. And if they've got 4 times the power that they've had previously, even theoretical, that is going to be a significant jump on what they're going to be able to do on a handheld. You see what they managed to do with the physics on Zelda, and the physics engines they managed to get run on that with the poor equipment that they had to run with. Pokemon was absolutely slated into oblivion with the bugs and the problems, etc. But most of that is down to hardware. There's not many games that try to do, okay, we're going to render in so many kind of random Pokemon in that come in, and everything is online based, and everything generates based on, okay, this time of day we're going to get this kind of random battle sequence, and it's our first online Pokemon, really co-op Pokemon we've ever done. So that was an issue. Hardware-wise, they've needed a boost for themselves, regardless from a developer standpoint.
I mean, listen, the thing is, the Switch has been for many years now mainly a Nintendo-only console,
and it's still
including some indies. Yeah, because no third-party developer was able to put their games on the Switch because it's simply not doable. There have been these rare occasions, like with Hogwarts Legacy, that came out 8 months later on the Switch and ran so poorly. But
we did get the likes of Machine Games outsourcing for Doom and Wolfenstein, etc., and they looked and ran great. But they're rare occasions.
Doom 2017, right? It's like a 7-year-old game.
Of course, but that's what I'm saying. It's like some of those
even
things.
Witcher 3 is on the Switch, but that's almost a 10-year-old game, and which is still pretty impressive that the Switch that they were able to port it to the Switch. But this is what I mean with the Switch 2. And a bit better hardware specs, they will be able to gather more third-party support. Yes, and this is gonna be a big thing for a lot of gamers out there. So
a big thing for them, but I think ultimately for me with the Switch specifically, it's always been about, much like PlayStation is for me, the Switch is a first-party game machine. So I always wanted a more powerful thing for the developers on Nintendo, because I felt sorry for them having to work with that for so long. So
agreed.
I will absolutely be picking up a Switch too. I can't wait to see what the next Pokemon is going to be like on the Switch too. I can't wait to see what the next Mario and Zeldas will look like on that, and what they're able to do with their new hardware for those games. I can't wait to see what the eventual new Mario Kart will look like on there, because it's been, we're talking a Wii and Switch game was essentially the last Mario Kart, or Wii U / Switch. So that was released on both of those, Mario Kart 8. So it's been so long since we've had a new one of those as well.
Yes.
So and Metroid Prime, of course, 4.
Metroid Prime 4 this year. I cannot wait. I totally expect a 3D Mario. That's also more or less an open secret that this is gonna be one of the launch titles for the Switch 2. So I think
they've got a big year.
The last year was really not good for Nintendo.
And it was, I think for them as well, to me, it has, for the last couple of years for Nintendo, they've released some good games, but it's very much been feeling like a wind down of their gen. Okay, this is the end of the life cycle, so we're not really going to push all of our content to this in the immediate future. Exactly. And it's been feeling like that for a while now, so it hasn't really been a talk. And to be fair, when you've got 140 plus million units on the market, you don't have to worry about it.
I agree.
So I think their entire focus has been for the last couple of years in the background is, okay, we'll get the hardware and we'll get our software lined up for the next gen. And I think that's why it's been so long of a wait for the new Metroid Prime, is because they're just like, when the hardware's ready, then we'll get the software.
Then we'll do it.
So it's going to be a big year for Nintendo, and I look forward to picking up the Switch 2 when that releases. For PlayStation, I'm looking forward to Ghost of Yotei. I'm looking forward to Death Stranding 2, but I am personally. And I understand you're not. And it's a Marmite, a Marmite game. It's one of those chalk and cheese things. You either like it or you don't. And it's everyone's come to accept that, and even Kojima knows that. Listen, I don't create games for everybody. I just create my weird, wonderful ideas, and that's good. And there should be more developers like that in the world, whether or not you like Kojima or his games. More developers need to be taking risks like him, where it's just a case of, I want to create what I create, and whether or not you like it is up to you, but this is my thing. And more developers need to have that free room. And I think Kojima's built up enough credit over his entire history where he gets to do that now, which is good.
Yeah, that's true.
But
So
on that
yeah,
side,
let's talk about PlayStation because well, Death Stranding 2. I mean, since Death Stranding 1 is also now on Xbox, you would assume that this is only a timed exclusive. It's definitely not a first party game, and then
definitely timed. Yeah,
and then we have Ghost of Yotei being the only thing which
big
I'm
one.
looking very much forward to. I love the Ghost of Tsushima.
Now there's a lot of
that's all.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I ask myself the question, since I use my PlayStation pretty much as an exclusive machine.
Yeah.
How often am I going to turn it on this year?
Yeah.
It's
so far once.
So far, I'm really not interested in Death Stranding, and then I have Ghost of Yotei, and that's all. The roadmap is really bad try because the Naughty Dog game, what's it called? Help me out. That they just announced at the Game Awards. You know.
Yeah.
The game, blanking on the name. Sorry, it's not a 2025 game. This is not going to come this year, and so I wonder: is this the year where they finally give us an actual roadmap?
And that's what I was going to say. That was my next point. Yes, they've got Ghost of Yotei, they've got Death Stranding, they have Marathon. However,
but Marathon is
it's multiplat.
It's multiplat.
But on that note, outside of that. Before we talk about first party again, outside of that, they're still buffing up the year with a lot of second party, third party stuff that are exclusive to the platform, and that's what they've buffed up.
Which games?
Stellar Blade, not Stellar Blade. Sorry, they've got a very similar kind of one coming.
I mean, listen,
you know what I mean.
These,
but that's not first party.
I know what you mean, but
that's not first party.
Really, no one's intergalactic. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see that. That's not this year either. I don't think.
Yeah, it's not a this year game.
Outside of that, but yes, roadmap wise,
double A kind of exclusive deals. Listen,
roadmap wise, they have the PS5 Pro out now. They've got the PS5. They've got their mid-gen refreshes out. So now they've got the hardware out the way of. So for the rest of this gen, that's them done. They've had the Slims. They've had the Pros. They've got the originals. They're done for hardware this gen. They've got the handheld thing that they've got the Portal. They've got the Midnight Black version of that coming out soon. Yeah. Great. Right, they've got hardware is done for this gen for PlayStation. Everything is done. So the only thing left for them to speak about going forward is games. This needs to be the year where then the next showcase, and I'm not a state of play, the next showcase is strictly about first party AAA games.
I do agree that this is the thing. What it needs to be, the question is, will they have a showcase? They didn't have one in 24.
I think yes, but do I think they're going to add any additional first party games to this calendar year? No. I think what they've already announced is what they've got for this year. However, I think in June they will announce their roadmap for 26 and beyond. And I don't mean too far out, but I think they'll start to talk about 26, maybe 27 titles.
And listen, for two reasons.
Yeah.
I fully agree. I just want to add context to why I think this is absolutely true. The first reason is they don't need a proper first party lineup this year.
Yeah.
Because the business of PlayStation is still very much focused on how do we gain install base? How do we maintain our customer base on our console? That's why they still don't do proper day and date with PC, because they always want to give that unique thing to the console players and so on. They are and I don't mean that in a good or bad way. Everyone can judge that for themselves, but they are way more focused on the hardware sales or install base focused sales, right? And they don't need one this year. They don't have a competition this year. They have that next year. If Xbox gonna launch and the next gen next year,
Yeah.
that's when it gets dangerous for them. That's when they really need to tell people, hey, you still need to stay in our ecosystem. Yeah, guys, here, PlayStation.
Yeah.
And that's when you need the first party games again to provide a unique selling point and to convince people, hey, it's worth to not switch to Xbox, but to stay at PlayStation. This is the one reason why I don't think that they are going to add significantly more, maybe a couple of smaller things. Yeah, but nothing like system seller level. Yeah, like big AAA banger. This is not this year. They don't need it. They don't, even though Xbox has a super awesome lineup this year. Yeah, games like Doom, are going to come anyway to PlayStation day and date for one thing. And even though Xbox has a Fable, which could be considered a system seller, it's still all this gen, and they won this gen by a big margin, right? The install base is not going to change significantly no matter what Xbox is going to release games-wise this year, the console install base. So they don't really have the competition this year. They have it next year. And that's why I think a lot of the things that people want, an Intergalactic and the next Cory Barlog game from Santa Monica, right?
Yeah.
Whatever Bend is working on. They need that more towards the end of the generation because Xbox is probably going to launch in 26 with next gen, and they are probably not going to launch before 28.
Yeah.
If not 29 is what they've said in interviews just a couple of months ago, right?
Yeah.
So they need the content to keep people in the PlayStation ecosystem more towards the end, but they need to lay it out.
Yeah.
They need to remind people, hey, it's still worth it. It's still, and that's why I think they will have a big showcase this year.
Yeah. And I think we
like
will see, you'll see a bigger update on Wolverine this year. I think we'll potentially eventually see what Cory Barlog's been working on, because of course that's been a separate team. Sony Bend, that's been a long time as well since we last saw, not just from them, but of course changing director and changing the studio direction and what they've been working on. So even saying that's been 6 years since Days Gone released. So it's been a long time. So I think we will see more of a roadmap from them, but for the 26 onwards section. So this is what you can expect from us going into 26, etc. And I think aside from that, like you say, a couple of smaller things to keep people interested. Of course, you're still going to get because Marathon is technically their first party studio. They'll be promoting that, and any other content that comes along with it. So there's going to be little bits like that. There's going to be like free DLCs and updates for current games and things like that. But I'm glad. I am so glad that PlayStation's done with the hardware announcements now, because it gives them absolutely no other reason to do a showcase other than games. Yeah, I agree. And they have to, theoretically, they would still have to do something this year with regards to games anyway, because you can't go an entire calendar year and not have a state of play or a showcase, or that would be...
I mean, the showcase... Listen, the showcase thing, we've said both on this show last year, they can't go through 24 without having a big showcase, and look where we ended up. So it could very well be that they have don't have a big showcase, but I think they will. State of plays are given, right? They will have state of plays this year, and they will Ghost of Yote was also announced during a state of play.
Yeah.
And then they do one state of play for the Naughty Dog game, and one state of play for the Santa Monica game, and one for the and I think we will see more of these big blockbuster games that they have for the end of this generation, because they know this is gonna be really interesting to keep people in your ecosystem. If Xbox is gonna bring out a super customer friendly thing with Windows and Xbox UI and all the things we just discussed, right? And more play anywhere and everything, and finally the content, right? Xbox now has proper lineup this year, next year, the year after. 26, 27 is gonna be awesome. Gears, Perfect Dark, all the good stuff is gonna come, and Xbox has this lineup to support the next gen in 26 properly. And then it's gonna be interesting. You need to your hardware is still 2 years out, right? You really need reasons to keep people in the PlayStation ecosystem then. This is gonna be interesting. And well, Xbox this year, I mean, we talked about Xbox during the Developer Direct segment earlier. They have an amazing year ahead. And honestly, this could very well end up being one of the best, if not the best years for Xbox ever.
And again, this is when we're talking about even outside of the games that we know of this year, we still have a showcase to look forward to. Obviously, we've got an awesome Developer Direct. We've got a big showcase to look forward to there. We usually have a third-party showcase the tail end after that. We then have another kind of usually a Developer Direct or a Japan showcase or Gamescom and things mixed in with it there. So we're going to see even more things from the lineup that we haven't seen. We know we're going to see Everwild at some point this year, which is good. Thank God that's not dead.
Absolutely.
So there's so many more things, as well as just the amazing lineup of Western RPGs that we're getting from Xbox this year, along with an awesome new platformer in South of Midnight.
And Avowed, and
Outer
Worlds,
and Outer Worlds, and Outer Worlds. Oh God, and Outer Worlds 2 as well,
Outer Worlds 2, Fable,
you name it.
Call of Duty, Doom. Is an entity mystery game that we will see in 2 weeks at the Developer Direct. Insanely good 2025 for Xbox. Let's talk about third party then, real quick. It's very interesting if you look at all the games that are announced, just to name a few, from GTA, of course, the big one. You have Dune, you have Dying Light, Mafia, Crimson Desert, you have Borderlands, Death Stranding, Descenders, Doom, Elden Ring, Night Rain is gonna come out, right? Ghost of Yote, we already talked about that. We have Marvel 1943. Rise of Hydra coming this year. We have the Metal Gear remake, Metroid Prime, Pokemon, Replaced, Sniper Elite, and all the Xbox games from Fable, Outer Worlds, and so on, where we don't have release dates. These are all confirmed to be this year games. But if you look at the release calendar, we only have a couple of games announced for January and February. We have teeny tiny bit in March, and that's it. And that's it. If you look through the calendar, January, I'm only talking about the bigger games, right? We have only, in January, we have only 2 games, which are PC ports. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Spider-Man 2 coming to PC. That's it for January, in terms of tons of indie games, but you know what I mean, Then we have the madness that is February. Kingdom Come Deliverance on 4th of February. Civilization 7, which is also coming to all consoles, including the Switch, by the way. Then we have Avowed, we have Like a Dragon, and Monster Hunter Wilds, all coming in February. We had just this today, earlier, about an hour before we started the podcast. Assassin's Creed was moved out of February, which was supposed to come out on 14th of February. And they did a very wise thing to move Assassin's Creed Shadows out. It's coming now out on 20th of March. And I think this is the smartest thing they've done in a long time from Ubisoft, because they need Shadows to be a success, right? The way how they are struggling within the company, they need it to be a success. And even if Shadows is as good as it looks, it still wouldn't stand a chance in February. So it's smart to move that out and to release that a month after Monster Hunter Wilds, because in between there's nothing, and the first hype of Monster Hunter and About and Like a Dragon and Kingdom Come will have died off.
Yeah.
And then you can swoop in, because March is already super thin.
Yeah.
The only other games worth mentioning is Atomfall, and let's be real, this is only a thing for Xbox gamers because it's in Game Pass. I don't think that Atomfall will
won't set the world alight.
Yeah, this is it's more a Game Pass thing. And then maybe you could mention first Berserker Kazan is also coming out on 27th of March, but this is also more, I think, a niche game. Yeah.
And then, of course, I think we think that Clair Obscura will fit in some way.
Clair, yeah, but in terms of what is announced, and that's it. Then you have the Last of Us PC remaster in April, and that's it. Yeah. That's it for in terms of
actual announced dates,
and confirmed release dates, which is crazy. If you compare that to this list of an insane amount of super blockbuster games, right? Yeah. Again, GTA, Mafia, Crimson Desert, Borderlands, Death Stranding, then all the Xbox games from Doom, Outer Worlds, Fable, South of Midnight. No, then we have Metroid, Marvel, Ghost of Yotei. The gigantic games, blockbuster games, but no release dates. And we mentioned that earlier. It's probably all because everyone is waiting to see where are they going to lock in GTA.
Yeah.
And
I think it's that. And I also think developers and you've got to think over specifically the last couple of years, there's been an abundance of games that have set release dates and then missed release dates and then set new release dates and then missed release dates. And I think developers are starting to, and board members are starting to back away from the idea of announcing a release date too early.
Yeah.
And just setting a specific year. Okay, it's releasing this year, and we'll decide that year, okay, when are we placing this? It's done. We'll give them time to polish it whilst we figure out when we're wanting to release it, and then we'll go, okay, let's push it.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of developers are going down that route now.
And it's probably not just GTA, right? Because plenty of games will think twice about going up against a Fable or a Doom, or Death Stranding 2 or Borderlands. We've seen it in the past. I think this is something a lot of publishers have learned the hard way over the last couple of years, maybe 2-3 years, that the release date is super important. It used to be way back in the days, you had basically nothing throughout the year, and everything released just in September, October, November. These were the only 3 months where mentionable bigger games came out for a long, long time in the gaming industry. Then someone had the idea, hey, maybe early in the year, February is still a good release windows because the weather is still bad, right? People are locked still in their homes. Then they started to widen the release window from okay, you can only launch in September, October, November to, you can also do February.
Yeah.
But that was it for a very long time. Now, in this day and age, you can release a game basically anywhere throughout the year. You can release a game in May and be super successful, or in June. Yeah, they still kind of wait out July and August for the most part. Yeah, these are the only 2 months where you don't release your big blockbuster game.
Yeah.
But other than that, you can do February, March, April, May, June, and be super successful. You can even do December now, right? Look at last December with Indiana Jones. Absolutely no problem. You can be super successful and do that. But so it became really more important to look what is launching along with me. Am I getting crushed by an Elden Ring, or a Hogwarts Legacy, or a Baldur's Gate?
Yeah.
Am I getting? This is way more important than do I release in September?
Yeah.
Right. So yes, GTA is definitely the juggernaut that everybody tries to avoid this year. But I think when you look at this list, and nothing has been set out. There's really nothing announced, nothing for going forward after April.
Yeah,
nothing with an actual date. And I think they are all trying. Okay, when is Doom going to log in? And then you start, and a couple of others, right? And then you start planning. So this is an interesting thing that I noticed this year, that we haven't had, by the way, in the last years. Throughout the last years, we already had a couple of dates locked in for a September release or an October release or something like that, early in the year, in January, which we don't have yet.
Yeah.
So, Dutch, without stretching it out too long, just real quick to close this preview of 25 out, what are your most anticipated games this year?
For Xbox, it's obviously the most anticipated is Fable, without a shadow of a doubt.
Agree.
It is my God.
Honestly, I'm even. I would say Fable is my most anticipated game this year.
Yeah.
Because as much as I'm looking forward to GTA 6, and I'm really looking forward to it because Rockstar never misses, right? The thing is, with Fable, I'm getting exactly what I want.
Yeah.
High fantasy, action RPG. I love those.
But I also thoroughly trust Playground Games to do a great job.
Yes.
And there's not many studios you can go to and say that. You can't, when you think about it, some studios you go, okay, yeah, they did a good job on this game, but previous games weren't that great, so we'll see what this one's going to turn out like. With Playground Games, from a technical perspective, as well as a gameplay and fun perspective, and a graphical perspective, and an audio perspective, they've always been on their game, and I expect absolutely no less when it comes to Fable. It's their first foray, and they've said they want to be like the top of the tree when it comes to studios that are recognized for being able to create great games regardless of what they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Fable is absolutely my number one. I honestly, after that, Outer Worlds and Avowed are like hand in hand. I like hand in hand. Outer Worlds 2, I loved Outer Worlds 1 thoroughly. I didn't know what to expect from the first one, and just loved it. Such a great experience. It didn't outstay its welcome. It was just the right length. And I loved the way it kind of wrapped up your choices at the end of the game to kind of say, okay, this is what happened and this is why it happened, and so on and so forth. So I can't wait to see this new iteration of Outer Worlds as well. And Avowed, of course, I'm looking forward to a smaller, more contained Skyrim that we just don't have for a very long time. So I can't wait for that kind of high fantasy RPG from them either. So I'm super excited about them, and I have to give a shout out. I am looking forward to Clear Obscura a lot because of what I've seen of it so far. I cannot wait to see and play that game. It's going to be so interesting to play an
absolutely.
ATB styled AAA game like that. So runner up is Ghost of Utah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not like super hyped for it because I haven't seen much of it. But Ghost of Tsushima was fantastic. Ghost of Utah is going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of go through that and what the story is going to be about this time on Ghost of Utah. And on Nintendo's front, of course, my big one is the new Pokemon that comes out later this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what it is that they do with that on the new Switch.
Excited for that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of games I'm looking forward to. And of course, we could go through all of them. I'm excited for all of them, but those are the standout games for me for this year. GTA, of course, I'll pick it up, but I'm not super excited about it. Like, I love the story on GTA.
I actually am.
I love the story on GTA 5. I loved the story on GTA 5. Do I think they're going to be able to replicate the same likability of the characters as they managed to do in GTA San Andreas 4 and 5? I don't know. That's the only thing. Are we going to enjoy it? Because we loved San Andreas and the characters that came out of that. They had some epic moments. We loved the characters in GTA 4 and even the expansion, the Ballad of Gay Tony, etc. And the Lost in the Damp. Fantastic expansions. And the characters that came out of that. And of course, GTA 5 with Trevor and Michael and just such fantastic kind of combinations of different types of characters. You had one kind of gang member that was like more akin to your San Andreas guys, and then you had Michael, who was just the like high level heist guy who just like was like Beverly Hills with a mansion and like a wife that doesn't really like him, and then you had Trevor, who was just this hillbilly absolute nut job. Just so many wild and wonderful characters, and the only thing with GTA 6 is, will they be able to recapture that level of enthusiasm for the characters?
I have zero doubt that they will. Yeah. I'm thoroughly excited for GTA 6. It's so many things, the story, the world. They have also always been very, very at the top level when it comes to world simulation. You know, the physics simulation in GTA 4 come to mind, and which was just way above state of the art at its time. And if you think about a Red Dead 2 and how this just felt like an actual living world and things like that. Of course, I'm also excited to see where they're going with it visually, right? Red Dead 2 still looks is one of the best looking games out there. I'm there, and of course, story wise, we have always something really good to look forward to in a Rockstar game. So no, I'm genuinely excited for GTA 6, and I cannot wait. We already talked about Fable, right? I also want to mention Doom. I love 2017's Doom, and I to this day think that Doom Eternal is one of the best shooters ever made. So Doom is definitely a game that stands out. I also am a big fan of Borderlands, and I cannot wait to play the new one. You already mentioned Avowed.
Yeah.
This is high fantasy. I love Obsidian, and this is Obsidian's take on Skyrim, right? Like you said, not as wide in scope, but a more 30-40 hour experience, which I cannot wait. Definitely my most anticipated game for February. I also really am looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows. This is the first big proper Assassin's Creed since Valhalla, which it's been a minute, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So that was 2020, right? I'm more than up for new Assassin's Creed. Then Metroid Prime. I thoroughly enjoyed the OG trilogy, and I cannot wait to see where this is going. You also mentioned, of course, Outer Worlds 2, which is still like crazy to think about that we get like 2 Obsidian games in a year. Phenomenal, right? And then Mafia comes out. I have very high hopes for that. And Crimson Desert towards the end of the year, which is looking just absolutely phenomenal. And could be something that really surprises everyone. And another game that nobody has on their radar is the Gothic remake, right? I have so much nostalgia for the Gothic IP. So, man, I don't even know where to start. And this year is gonna be absolutely awesome. And I just hope that these publishers choose wisely, like we discussed earlier, where to put the games to give each of those amazing games actually room to breathe. And it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be an awesome year, man. But Dutch, we are almost 3 hours into this podcast, and I still want to get to the community questions before we let everyone out of here. So anything you need to or want to add on 2025 before we move to the community questions?
No, it's hard to think. We've had came off the back of a really strong year for gaming last year again, with some fantastic titles, and 2025 looks like it's ready to eclipse that again.
Agree.
So it's looking absolutely fantastic, and long may it continue. Of course, at the end of the day, regardless of what hardware you're on, ultimately it's about the games, and we're getting an abundance of really big mega titles this year.
Yes, absolutely.
The only problem we're all gonna have is so many games and not enough time.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Dutch, let's get to the community questions.
Yes.
Then, guys, like every week, you can write in questions and or topics you would like us to discuss. We usually put up posts on Wednesday throughout X, Blue Sky, here right now on YouTube. But we are getting also more and more questions from our listeners on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So shout out to those. We don't lock them behind like a Patreon or something. So everyone can write in, ask questions or propose topics, and we usually try to get through all of them. So this week's first question comes in from Ironclaw Gaming, and he asks, I don't know if you guys have discussed this yet or not, but do you think Avowed will be lost in the shuffle during its loaded launch week? And this is something that I could see. I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Civilization 7, right? Well, Assassin's Creed is now gone, but you still have Like a Dragon and Monster Hunter Wilds. Especially Monster Hunter is a juggernaut, right? And I'm not hoping for it, because out of all these games that come out in February, Avowed is going to be the first one I'm going to be playing.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. Whenever I post about Avowed, I see so many replies that I'll get to it eventually, but I need to play Kingdom Come first, or I need to play Monster Hunter first, or Yakuza, the pirate Yakuza game, first. So I don't know. I hope it's gonna be a success, but it is not the best month for a launch of Avowed. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean it isn't, but it's different. Different tastes for different folks. As you've mentioned, some people are going to be jumping on Pirate Yakuza because they love the Yakuza games. Others are massive Monster Hunter fans, so they'll be jumping on that. Others want super in-depth RPGs like Kingdom Come Deliverance, which are far more detailed than the likes of Avowed. But others want that high fantasy RPG thing as well. So there's going to be a lot of people on each side of things. Of course, like you say, Monster Hunter is an absolute juggernaut. The only ones that are really going against each other in this segment, I would say, in terms of the fantasy RPGs to a stretch, or should we say the RPGs, are Kingdom Come and Avowed, but one of them's high fantasy, one of them's more old school realism, as in like historical.
I think you're absolutely right.
And for me, if
it's all different genres.
yeah,
it's all different genres.
exactly.
Yakuza is very different from Civilization,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Kingdom Come is very different from those. At the end of the day, people have only so much time.
Yeah.
And yes, there is something in there for every taste. But if they would launch in January, next week, for instance, they would.
And I think for Xbox,
have a very different player base, and if they would do an Assassin's Creed move to a March or April, they would have a very different player base.
I think
because at the end of the day, you're still fighting for time.
Yeah, I think for Xbox, the only benefit Xbox have here is that they don't need to worry about the sales aspect of their launch because it's in Game Pass.
That is very true.
Unlike Monster Hunter and unlike Civ and unlike all of those other games where they have to hit the sales and they're fighting for sales, Avowed doesn't have that issue.
Avowed doesn't have that issue. That is very true. So yeah, we shall see Ironclaw if
naturally, of course, they want to sell units, but it's not the be all end all, because if they can get more people just playing it on Game Pass, regardless of whether it releases now or in a month or 2 months or 3 months, whenever someone plays it, as long as they play it, they don't care.
Agree. Stormplayer DX writes in and asks, do you think Microsoft will be launching their console like Windows OS this year? That would be awesome for PC handhelds. I mean, I think we discussed this extensively. So if it's okay for you, Stormplayer, we would just go to the next question. And that comes from The Big Bridge. And he says, okay, by a whim of destiny, you end up in the employ of a major antagonist enemy faction of a video game of your choice, with the memory of how the story plays out. What golden advice would you give them to avert defeat and change the fate of the story? Oof. That's a difficult question.
So I'm in the enemy faction, but I'm giving the player tips on how to avoid destruction. Is that essentially the thing? So I'm trying to basically be a spy on the behalf of the player and give them help.
So, yeah. See, the Brotherhood of Steel comes to mind from Fallout. I know it's not really an enemy faction, but they're also not really the good guys, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And what advice would I give them?
And obviously in the Brother of Steel thing, what you saw, especially in the TV series, which was fantastic, and we'll of course see more of that soon, was you saw the ghoul, who used to be Brotherhood of Steel, point out that the armor had flaws. And he said, oh, this is the type of armor that you've got. And he just went boop, 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 boop. And he knocked out the armor pieces immediately. So it is probably a weakness of...
But it would probably the suggestion to change the fate of the story, right?
Yeah, it'd be pointing out a flaw in the enemy's base, or a flaw in the enemy's... Okay, he's doing X, Y, and Z, but he's relying on this person in order to do that. So if you want to really curtail his plans, you need to go and take this guy out.
Agree. Sergeant Sentinel Gaming writes in, do you anticipate that Xbox will bring back the Guitar Hero franchise? Even if it's not exclusive.
I wish.
But I don't think that they do, at least not in the midterm future, because the time where you had like dedicated hardware accessories to play games was a different time. It was the time of the Wii, right? When
that though, these days they've got the likes of Hyperkin that are very big on creating third-party accessories now. So it could be a case of if they did go down that route, that they team up with the likes of Hyperkin to create these.
Yeah, but it's not like the accessories they make are still like more classic things. I think the time where you had that hype where people like to stand up in front of the TV and swing stuff around and have different peripherals. I don't see that.
I don't see it
that-
being as popular as it was, but if it did
Yeah.
release, I would get it in a heartbeat.
let's agree on
Yeah.
that. Let's agree on that.
Yeah.
Right.
It is. I agree,
Sinrai.
though. I agree that it
Yeah.
is a different time.
Yeah.
Do I think
And
the
maybe
likes
the
of
time comes back sometime.
yeah. Do I think the likes of a
History
Wii would
repeats
be as?
itself.
Do I think the likes of a Wii would be as popular now as it was back then? No.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the
See-
thing. It's a different time, isn't it?
It's a different time, and you can see that, for instance, with handhelds. Handhelds, you know, the OG Game Boy and the Nintendo DS, one of the best selling devices ever, right?
Yeah.
Then there was just a time where handheld gaming wasn't interesting anymore. It was the Vita, as good as it was, right, never really was a success, and then the handheld market more or less died off for a certain time. It never really died completely, but you know what I mean, because then mobile gaming took over. But now we are back in this hype phase of handheld gaming, because now handhelds play the exact same games that you can play on your PC, and you get the full-fledged experience. So they've evolved from being those devices that developers needed to make dedicated games for, and it was just so there's always history repeats itself. Yeah, and so maybe in 10 years or so, we have another phase where these kind of games where you have peripherals and action in front of your gaming screen again. We shall see. Pyro says, bring back light gun games. Oh, yes.
Oh, God,
please.
yeah. Yes.
Please. Yes.
100%. God, I miss those games.
100%.
Time Crisis.
Yeah.
Virtua Cop. House of the Dead.
House of the Dead, yeah.
Oh, God,
Did I tell you the story last summer? I for the first time played the Halo
one with
game.
with the kids, yeah.
Oh, yeah, with the kids, and man, that was just a blast.
I still haven't played. I still haven't seen an arcade with that in yet to go and play it. When I do,
yeah, we were in Italy, and there was an arcade that had the Halo. Man, that was a blast. Bring back light guns.
Yeah,
it's the best shout of the day, right? So Sin writes in and says, community question for the pile. What do you think about the idea of every Xbox first-party game moving forward launches with a free timed trial for all to play? Kind of like back in the 360 days when every game had a game demo. I bet user counts would see a significant spike for each game.
Bring back the demo disc is what you're saying.
Bring back the demo disc. I would love that in theory. On the other hand,
I miss
there's
those
really
days.
no need for Xbox to do that because of Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly. Game Pass kind of avoids that entirely. You get Game Pass, you're fine.
Exactly. Game Pass even to a degree made reviews redundant.
Yeah.
Who needs a review for a game if you just can try it out yourself, right?
Yeah.
I
do miss demo discs though, because that's when magazines were at their best. You'd pick up the latest PlayStation magazine, and you'd have your new demo disc or your new Xbox magazine, and there would be a demo disc, and you'd try out it, and you'd this game's coming out, and it was, and the games were already out at that point. They were just a case of here's a demo disc with all of these brand new games on that you can try before you buy.
Those were the times,
and especially what was even better was if you were, particularly, you didn't have enough pocket money or anything at the time when the demo discs were out. But you wanted to play a new game. You ended up just getting the demo disc, and that was essentially
It's more-
4 or 5 new games that you could play.
Yes. Yeah. Good times, man. Good times. It's kind of sad that this younger generation will never
Experience that.
Yeah, it's, if I look at my kids, how they grow up, right? I mean, they are spoiled anyway, because I mean, if you think back, if your father would have had all the consoles and a gaming PC and handheld and everything, and basically has all major games anyway, and you grow up, I never gifted properly a game for Christmas or so to my kids, because why? We have the games anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is kind of sad, because they never experienced this. Man, I hope that Santa is bringing me this or that game, and then you unwrap it at Christmas Day, and you're
the Game Boy
guy
when you were getting your Game Boy games and things with the cartridges for the first time, and you're like, yes.
It's kind of strange that they never experienced that.
Yeah, it's just not the same now, because you can set up a console for them before they get it and install everything on it and then put it back in the box.
Yes.
And they don't need to, you can just download the games. You don't have to buy them the physicals.
Right, and with the Game Pass, they have access to 500 games, and there's not this hype around this, I'm getting this one particular game, and Daddy has all the games anyway, and but it is what it is. It all has its pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
All right, Dutch. With that, we are at the end of this podcast. I want to say a big thank you to this awesome community, all the people that stayed with us for 3+ hours now on the World of Gaming, the first proper World of Gaming podcast, not counting the special interactive show we did last week, right? Massive shout out to you guys. We appreciate you being here. Big thank you for all the super chats that came in. And of course, a big shout out to the channel members that do support us here. But also a big thank you to everyone who listened after the fact, either here on YouTube or of course on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. We appreciate you all. Dutch, let everyone know what you've coming up and where they can find you.
Yeah. You can find me everywhere at WandrinDutch or WandrinDutch X. I am going to be doing a different kind of podcast. Still haven't decided on the name of that podcast yet, because it's not gaming related, as you know. We discussed this briefly last week. So we're going to be doing a new podcast that is kind of an all topics open, aside from politics, of course. So could be anything, could be movies, could be films, could be music, could be life stuff, could be paranormal, could be just anything we want to discuss. We'll just have generalized topics and conversations about it. So it's going to be a little bit of a different thing going forward. But again, when we're talking about doing content creation, etc., I've also been kind of dabbling in more of the vlog territory as well over the last year with hiking vlogs and things like that. So there's going to be a bit of a change of the channel going forward. Of course, is not just going to be solely focused on gaming. It's going to be kind of just opening up to a few other things, which is
super interesting.
For me, it's keeping my content creation interest alive, as it were. So I'll still have the gaming podcast every Thursday, of course, with yourself, and that means, of course, I can keep a retained interest in keeping the gaming podcast going, knowing that I have another podcast where I can discuss something entirely different, and then hiking stuff that I can do on the channel. So it's going to be keeping things a bit more interesting. And I'll be doing that podcast with the General C, who's going to get back into podcasting as well. So
sweet.
Sweet. Keep saying.
Do you guys have decided on when you guys want to start?
It's probably this week's probably too soon. It's probably going to be, I would imagine, next Sunday, and then every Sunday going forward.
Sweet.
But it's coming up with a name for a podcast that doesn't encapsulate one particular thing. Of course, with a midweek mix-up and World of Gaming, it's strictly gaming and technology. Whereas, of course, essentially a lifestyle podcast where it's could be discussing regular life things or paranormal or games or music or films. It's an entirely different ball game coming up with a name. So when I've thought about what we're talking about it and then made thumbnails and things like that and artwork for it, then I'll get it going. But it's probably going to be next Sunday, and we'll get that ball going. God knows what the first topics will be, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that'll go. And of course, it'll be a fluid conversation because it could be about anything. So that's my plans.
Nice.
And of course, you'll see more hiking content this year as well from me. And I'm still going to do. Still going to do the indie showcase this year. I don't know how the format's going to work or what route I'll go down, but I'll make sure it's definitely going to be worth watching. And I'm going to do the charity event, which I didn't do last year. It's the only year I've missed out doing a charity event for years. But time-wise and kind of fitting it in and health-wise and work just wasn't possible the tail end last year. So that'll be over the next coming months. Maybe April, May time I might do the charity event for this year.
Awesome.
But yes, that's me. So it's going to be busy this year for me on the content creation front. But it's going to be different.
Awesome, man. Looking forward, especially to the new podcast, and it's. I've no doubt that it's going to be a very, very interesting format, man. All right, guys. Again, I want to say a big thank you. We will be back, of course, here next Thursday to discuss everything that happens in the world of gaming and the technology side and everything. Until then, I do hope you guys are going to have an awesome weekend. The weekend is near, right? We only have to power through Friday until we get the weekend. I hope you guys do enjoy the games you're playing, and we'll see you guys next week. And don't forget to game on.
Got my number figured out, a motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, rather be a dreamer.